what up? This is Lee Smith. We're back in Brooklyn, New York, Mona Lisa Studios, Mission Statement Podcast, episode 4. We've got a very special guest in the building, Leo Fitzpatrick. Thank you for coming through, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're gonna catch up.
Let's do it.
Let's go. I met you a long time ago, but I don't feel like we don't really know each other like super well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We never like really hung out too much.
No, because it's like the beauty of skateboarding is you know a ton of people, and you might see those people once, twice a year, and you're friendly. And I think skateboarders are really good at not pushing that too much. Being like, yeah, we're cool. I might see them once or twice a year, but we're cool. Like you don't push this idea of what is friendship. You have lots of acquaintances.
Of course.
And I like that. Like, you know, it's, I like to think that I have lots of friends out there and I don't have their phone numbers. It's cool. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Let's start at the beginning, man. You're from Jersey. Yeah. West Orange, correct?
West Orange, New Jersey, yeah.
All right.
So West Orange, not that popular. East Orange, a little more popular.
Didn't that used to be like the murder capital or something?
East Orange is pretty high up there, but like Naughty by Nature is from East Orange, Queen Latifah, a lot of like native tongue rap groups. And then Newark, New Jersey, carjacking capital of the world. It's the best. And then Montclair, there's like...
Montclair's a little fancier, right?
Yeah, but
if you're a rapper, like you moved to Montclair maybe.
But Montclair had its like seedy side when I was growing up. But it was pretty cool to grow up there. But then I came to New York, I think I was 12. Okay. And it was a wrap. Like it was just no more New Jersey.
So like, you started skating.
Yeah.
How did you start skating?
So I was a BMX kid, like a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And I think at some point, like there was like, somebody had a hutch, somebody had a mongoose. Like we kind of got like kind of into it.
With the pegs and the rotor.
Yeah, we were like building up bikes and getting into it. And then I think my brother got me a mongoose, probably for like my 8th birthday or something. Like he traded some shit and got me a mongoose. And it got stolen like within an hour.
How did it get stolen?
It was in my backyard. Somebody just like heard I had a mongoose and came and stole that shit. So I think I was kind of like, fuck all this. Like it almost like cost too much money. It was like too fancy.
It's like an expensive hobby to keep up.
Yeah, and this idea of like getting something only to know is only gonna get stolen. You're like, what's the point? And somebody had a skateboard at some point. And there were jump ramps and stuff. And hucking yourself off a jump ramp with a skateboard seemed a lot less dangerous than with a bike. Like I was killing myself on these bikes. And skateboard, you just kick away, you know. Was
there somebody like that you saw in the neighborhood? Were there other skater kids?
There were like older kids.
Okay.
And then, you know, the great thing about growing up in like not a city is that there would be like 3 skaters from one town, 3 skaters from another town, 3 skaters from another town, and then slowly that would become
about each other.
Your crew. Yeah. And you know, you're on a skateboard, so you're like transit, so you're just moving from one town to the next. I think out of all the kids I started with, I think I was the only one that like survived out of all the skaters. There was probably 9, 10 of us in our town in the beginning.
That like kept skating?
Yeah, I think I was the only one that kept skating. And that whole period probably was like a year.
Okay.
Like there was like 10 kids at the beginning of the year, and then there was me at the end of the year. And by that point, I discovered kids in other towns, which was the best because, you know, in my town, basically I'm the last of 5 children. Like I have 4 brothers and sisters. And the way I grew up, my mom didn't have money for people to be into hobbies. Like I
can relate to that.
I couldn't dabble with a guitar. Yeah. Like if she bought me a guitar, I better learn how to fucking play the guitar. You know, like, so all my brothers and sisters had their things lined up and I was trying to figure out my course. And that was like around 9 years old. And then I found a skateboard And then I found the other kids in the other towns who had figured that out. But it was really nice to know that, like, there was some kids that came from, like, well-off families, which, looking back, those families were completely insane.
Nuts, yeah.
And then there was also kids that were poorer than me,
Of course.
which was, like, reaffirming. Like,
That's
shit,
the beauty of skating.
I don't have it as bad as that guy. Like, so it was this motley crew. Everybody came from kind of dysfunctional families, but it was great for those, like, couple hours we got to skate a day. And also, I don't really remember curfews.
Okay.
Like, nobody had a curfew. Like, nobody's parents really cared about where they were. It was all very loose. And nobody really talked about their families.
Yeah, that was the thing. I remember being a kid, it's like, you know somebody, but you don't know anything about them. You hang out every day, you go skate, but, like, you don't really...
It's sort of like...
it's your buddy, but, like, you don't really know about them.
Yeah, you sort of just know, like, not to talk about family stuff.
Exactly.
It's like kind of... Everybody's, like, you find skateboarding for different reasons, and I think, a lot of that... Like, I remember when I was really young, I went out skating, I broke my wrist, I came home, there was no one there, even though I have 4 brothers and sisters.
You like knew it was broken?
Yeah, I knew it was broken. And I found like an old bowling wrist guard or something.
How old are you?
I was probably like 9 or 10.
Damn.
And then I just went back out skating, like with a broken wrist. I was like, well, ain't shit I could do. Like, I'm not gonna push to the hospital. And like, but those kind of things where you're like, just have to take care of yourself, And like, I love my family. They were sick, but there was just a lot of those like, well, ain't nobody gonna fix this but me.
It was a little different. It was a different time, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not talking shit or like I was abused or like, dude, my mom was just working her ass off. Like that was just the reality of it. But then also
had to fend for yourself.
To know kids that had it worse was nice for me. Because I thought I had it worse until I met other kids and I was like, oh shit, I got it all right. Like, not so bad.
So you have your crew. How did you first like end up in the skating in the city?
There was an older kid, I don't know, I can't remember his name, but my best friend at the time was this skater named Hassan Woods, who was really good. And he was from Montclair, I was from West Orange, and this kid took us, I think it was the 21 bus, which went from West Orange to Newark, and then you would take the PATH train into the city. And it probably took about an hour and a half because it was the bus.
And when you're young, that feels like a fucking eternity.
But you're also surrounded by maniacs, which is exciting when you're a kid. Every weekend at the bank seemed like a contest because there were so many people there. But when we came in that first time, it might have been a contest. And it was just mind-blowing, where you're like, wait, my crew just grew like 500 deep. Like now there are all these people that look like me, that dress like me, that listen to the same music. Like, holy shit, why would I ever go back to my small town where everybody's making fun of the way I dress when I could just come here every weekend? And then slowly, the weekends turned into weekdays. School became less of a priority.
At 12?
Well, this is now around 14 is when I'm like deep. Like I know I was coming in 14 pretty heavy, but Larry Clark has photos of me as when I was 14 at the banks drinking Old English. So there is like photo documentation that backs up my fuzzy memory.
Were you like staying in the city or were you going home every night?
No, I think we would go home every night. But also around 14 is when like raving started happening.
I remember that too.
And so, recently I was listening to like Ted, like Feedback Ted. He was on one of his Instagram clips, he's talking about Rodney Torres saying breaking night. And I remember that like super clearly, like, oh, we're gonna break night.
It was a thing, yeah.
We're gonna break night, like we're just gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
And so like when we would go to raves, again, I was 14, strangely, we would get let in, no problem.
Because it was always in some weird warehouse, like
Well, in New York,
yeah.
it's still New York.
Yeah.
And the tunnel had a mini ramp in it. And there was like, I think Friday nights, like the skaters got to skate the ramp. But it was sort of like you were a VIP if you had a skateboard. And so there'd be all these people online, but you would, as a 14-year-old, walk up and skip all these people and just get let into the club.
That's crazy.
And then NASA was another club. And I was recently thinking about it. I don't think they served alcohol, any of these places. I mean, the tunnel served alcohol, but I don't think NASA served alcohol. So it was literally just a dance club, and they had like a smart bar where you could get smoothies or something. But everyone just took ecstasy.
I was gonna say, what are
Or
you guys taking?
acid. We couldn't afford ecstasy,
Yeah.
so we took acid because it was $5 a hit. And at some point, because I knew the acid dealer, I would get my friend's acid and he would give me free acid, like as a commission or something. And
I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
it's so funny to think back to those times because like Pancho Moeller was like a big part of my crew.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because he's from Jersey, too,
He's from
right?
Jersey, yeah.
Oh my
And so
God,
we'd be at these
Pancho.
clubs, like on acid, but everybody's on acid because they don't serve alcohol. And they would see Pancho walking through and be like, what the fuck? And then after Pancho would be like a really old couple. And you'd be like, and then you'd have club kids. And it really was this strange mix of people, just like on a little acid. So yeah, it was really good. But so basically, you'd skate all day, you'd stash your boards, you would go to a club all night, and then because the train or the buses wouldn't start working again until like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., they would shut down at some point. So you'd have to like wait it out. And I remember like next to the nightclubs, you would always try to find like a restaurant because they would have like warm bread brought to them for the day and you could steal a couple loaves of bread. That shit was the best. So just weird shit like that. And then, you know, there were nights where you slept in the train station or the bus station. And Newark was no joke back then. And you know a person's from New Jersey if they call it Newark. It's not Newark.
You just put me on to something I didn't know.
It's just Newark. It's like one word, people. Like, that's a real
So you're
thing.
14 years old, you're sleeping in Newark train station.
Yeah, because sometimes you would have to skate home, which is like 2.5, 3 hour skate, even though it's only an hour bus ride. And you're skating through the projects, like it's Newark back then. East Orange was really bad. We got jumped a lot in East Orange. And that was part of the excitement, was like getting jumped at the banks. That was the best. Because you'd have these bike crews that would come down from the Bronx or wherever to the banks to just BMX there. For some dumb reason, the bikers and the skaters didn't get along. And so there'd be like territorial fights.
Yeah.
And
At Embarcadero, we had, whenever something like that happened, we always had James Kelch. So if like something popped off, we'd be like, call Kelch, get Kelch. Like you guys must have had one dude who would like come through like a skater and just rep and like,
I mean,
kind of just shut shit down, maybe.
I feel like reputation more, like I know like Jeff Pang was obviously like very important, like, you know, serious guy. But I don't remember like any like enforcers or anything. Like I would think like Mike Vallely or something like that, but I don't, any of those altercations I got into, like I don't really remember it. But I just remember like this fight breaking out and scattering and meeting back up together at the Burger King and being like, who got robbed? Who, like all that shit was so fun. And that was like my favorite part of it. Like getting chased by the cops, like all that stuff,
fun,
all those
all that shit
weird
was
little
so much
moments. Because I also probably didn't land shit. So like that was like the landing the trick, was like getting out of a fight and getting back to the Burger King and not losing any shit. But Newark, you get jumped a lot in Newark. Like I remember once I was in Newark and there's a really good skate spot in Newark. I don't think too many people have skated there. I think Ryan G tried to put it on for a little bit, called PSE&G. And it's like kind of a big, like, they have like a Wallenberg kind of big set of stairs and some handrails and stuff. And I was there again with Hassan Woods, and these little kids, like maybe we're 14, but these kids are like 8 or 9. They roll up on us and they're like, give us your pagers. Because we had pagers back then. We're like, get the fuck out of here. You know, it's like these kids where if they try to punch you, you just hold their head and they couldn't even hit you. And
But then
stuff
they
like
call
that.
their brother, right?
They went and got their uncles. And the uncles came back like, why didn't you let our nephew rob you? Like, they were like dumbfounded that we didn't just like let the nephews rob us. And then the uncles proceeded to kick the shit out of everybody.
Man.
Really, like, they took it real personally.
Yeah.
Like, they stole everything. Like, I think one kid was in school, they just like took his textbooks and like fucking ripped them up and like threw them in the streets. Like, real personal, like nasty vendetta, uncle vendetta. But yeah, all that shit, I loved it. I loved all of it.
Were you skating a lot at Astor Place too? Like
Yeah,
Astor
that
nights?
came a little later. Like, so basically,
Like, what was the routine back? Like, you come to the city.
come to the city because Brooklyn Banks was like the introduction. And so you go to Seaport and like kind of kick around there. And then as you get older, you start going to Astor, Union Square, Midtown. That was kind of like pretty much it. Occasionally like Brooklyn and stuff. But it was like Brooklyn Banks was daytime, Astor Place, Union Square was nighttime.
Nighttime, right?
And because, I mean, back then nobody had cell phones.
Yeah.
Some people had pagers, but even that was a little odd. So you would just go there and see who was there.
Yeah.
And with all the skateboarders, there were also freaks. So
Yeah,
a
of
place like
course.
Union Square, you could just sit there for hours and watch all the Maniacs until somebody showed up.
Yeah. It's crazy because you're almost describing like the exact same life in San Francisco. We would do Embarcadero in the daytime, Pier 7, and then Union Square at
yeah.
nighttime. That's where you skated, did drugs, drink 40s, shit like that before you go out to the party. So it's basically like almost a parallel universe.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, because I went to San Francisco in my teenage years, and like, so I saw that firsthand. It's just, it's weird. Also, being from New Jersey, there was always a reminder that you are from New Jersey. So like my crew kind of coming into the city in those days, and this kind of varied per week, but it was like Bobby Pulio, Tim O'Connor, Pancho Moeller, Hassan Woods, and like some other people like Roscoe and Lionel. Like
That's a pretty
people
solid
that-
squad right there.
Yeah, but we were always like the Jersey guys, and I was really low on that totem pole. Like those guys were actually good. I'm like just some like skate rat. So like you were never really accepted into the crew. Like Bobby being like the best was still, I think, kind of like talked shit on. You know, like, but like everybody knew Bobby was as good as everybody else, but he was from Jersey.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, man, you're from Jersey. Like, so it was pretty tricky to like infiltrate
Yeah.
the New York scene. And then like Harold was the best. Harold, everybody knows, was the
Was
best.
he more welcoming?
Yeah.
He was kind of
Harold-
like open to everybody, right?
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And Harold, I swear, like up until like I don't think we've ever figured this out. I don't think me and Harold ever talked about this before he died. He would always be like, yo, remember that time I taught you late shovets? We've been having this conversation for like 15 years. And I'm like, Harold, you never taught me late shovets. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then recently, I was talking to Tim O'Connor, and it was Tim O'Connor he had taught late shovets to. But for me, it was like, finally, I figured
You're
this
like,
out.
Oh,
like,
shit, okay.
but Harold was always cool with everybody. Like, I always say that he was the first person that anybody remembered meeting in New York. Like, because he was just not a dick, and he was just down, and I don't know, he was awesome in just like he was just down.
Yeah.
Whereas there were definitely other people who would just kind of like vibe you out.
Yeah. Don't want to say any names.
We'll get into it. But I don't know, but it teaches you a lot. Like, you know, there's a lot about being a kook and skateboarding and what you learn and how you learn not to be a kook.
Yeah.
And I think those are all really important lessons.
Yeah.
And me being kind of shy or like awkward as a person, I always knew where I stood in the New York City skateboarding scene. Like, never wanted to like stand out.
So you felt like there was like kind of a hierarchy, and you're like, or not, I don't know if hierarchy, but you're like, I'm not like, was it about like skill level, or was it about like?
Yeah, it was about like respecting your elders, kind of, and like again, I didn't even mention like all the Westfield guys like Kim Cardona, Mike Cardona, Teddy Powell, like those are all Jersey legends as well.
Teddy Becks.
Yeah, and so like those dudes had respect, like so it was weird like navigating that because I'd be with those guys, but I knew I wasn't on their level.
What's Westfield?
Westfield is an area in New Jersey, kind of like middle Jersey. Westfield had a really amazing skateboard shop called T-Shirt Emporium, and they would get all the world demos.
Was German Neves part of that crew?
German's Patterson.
Oh, okay.
Which
So
makes
that's
sense.
another
German,
sector.
Andy Batista, Bobby Puglio's more like that Clifton area.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like we were from all over Jersey. And we didn't even talk about RB kind of fucked up on his podcast. He didn't mention Screw Skateboards, which was his sponsor. Like he's like, oh, some skateboard company in Jersey. It was Screw Skateboards. And then there's Eatontown Roller Rink, and you got Tom's River, and you got Freddie, and
Was that roller rink? That was the one that there was always like demos and stuff in there, and people used to do lines like going all the way around.
Yeah.
Sick lines though. Sick shit.
Yeah, Ron Carnegie. Ron Carnegie's from Roseland.
Mini nollie flips in there.
Yeah, like, I mean, Tom Grholski, Jersey's got a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah, dude.
But they're from Jersey. Sorry. Like that is how I grew up. Like, yeah, but you're from Jersey.
So that's kind of like having a mini like inferiority complex or
Yeah, it's sort of know your place.
Yeah, know your place.
Kind of a thing, which is cool. I knew my place. So I'd been coming to the city, I don't know, for a few years, and then when I was 14, started noticing Larry Clark coming around.
Okay.
And Larry was in Washington Square Park, which is another like hangout, obviously. And by this point, kind of like dropped out of school, was just coming to the city, partying, whatever.
How did your parents take that? Or they didn't know?
Mom was just working so much, she like couldn't really do much about it, kind of.
That's kind of how I grew up too. I took advantage of the fact that my mom was like stressed and like.
Yeah, and there's 4 other kids and there's no money, and like basically my mom worked the graveyard shift. And as long as I was home for breakfast, but I'd be on acid and shit, having breakfast with her. And I'd be like, all right, cool, I'm going to school, but I just go back to the city. Like, and she's from Ireland, and
Oh shit.
seems like she didn't know what was going on, but I have no idea how she couldn't know what was going on. Like, I'm 14 years old, like 95 pounds, fucking my eyes were probably like spaceships, and we're having breakfast. And she's like, all right, I'm going to bed. I'm like, cool, I'm going to school, and just never go to school. But basically, so I meet Larry Clark when I was 14. And Larry's talking about a movie, and nobody takes it seriously.
Well, I wanted to ask you that because I mean, normally like in SF or even here in New York, it's like you got an old dude that comes up to you and is like to young kids and says like, hey, I want you to be in a movie. You're kind of like, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And that was definitely the vibe Larry was bringing with him. Like, he had a mustache. He kind of wore skateboard gear, but sort of looked like a narc.
Yeah.
Taught himself how to skate. Like, he could skate, but it was really suspect. Like, the whole thing was like, why is this dude taking pictures of everybody?
Yeah.
what the hell is his deal? His kind of saving grace was he was always with Tobin Yealand.
Okay.
And so I remember thinking, well, Tobin's down with Big Brother. Maybe this guy's down with Big Brother. Because like Rick Cossack isn't the average looking skateboard photographer.
That's true.
So you're like, maybe this is one of those weird Big Brother photographers who's like an art photographer, but he shoots skate photos or something, like an Earl Parker or something. And then there was that crazy Banks contest that happened. It was like the Connecticut contest at the playground, the Banks, and I think there was the Love Park contest, like all within a weekend or a week of each other. And that was like huge for East Coast skateboarding. And I went to all those contests. And I think at the Brooklyn Banks contest, somehow I snapped my board, which I
You
probably...
entered it?
No. No, this is like Costin and like Colin McKay. Like everybody was out here for those 3 contests. Like I think like
Is that Danny Way, like nose slide the hand?
Yeah, that day.
Okay.
And that's like, there's footage of the skaters chasing the rat with the brick and killing the rat, and the photo of Poncho and Big Brother with the dead rat. It was chaos. Kyle James, dude, that dude.
The Timberland guy.
Yeah, real. He's real. That day, like Lady Miss Cure from D-Light was there. There was so much weird shit happening, and you're like a little kid just taking it all in like it's absolutely normal. But the rat scene from that day inspired the fight scene from kids, because Larry is like, holy shit. And basically what happened with the fight scene, the rat scene, so the Brooklyn Banks, there was this rat that was running around. Everybody wanted to kill it.
Why not? That's what people do.
That's what you do. You just
kill
smash shit with your skateboard. And then, I don't know if it was Kyle James. Might have been Kyle James. But there was a DJ that Vinny Raffa set up, who was DJing the event. And somebody walked over to him and was like, give me your necklaces. He's like, he had like gold chains or whatever. He's like, I'm not giving you my necklaces. And so I think they tried to snatch his necklaces, and he punched the dude in the face.
And then
broke loose. Fucking a riot broke out. And like, it was a skater who was trying to steal this dude's necklaces, but he wasn't the skater. So all the skaters turned on him. Yeah. And it was chaos. Like, dude's just tearing stuff up.
Where's Costin at? He's like hiding in the corner.
I don't know. And basically, I know Mickey Reyes was there, because Mickey's like the one who broke it up. Mickey's like big dude. And
he's gnarly.
He's like, what are you guys doing? You're all scared. Like, blah, blah, blah. But basically, I think Mickey put this dude in like just a person driving by his car and was like, just get this guy out of here.
The dude that tried to grab the chains?
No, the DJ guy with
Vinny
the
Raffa.
necklaces.
Oh, yeah.
The Banks, there was such an energy there. And at the time, like nobody fucked with you. Like, you could do whatever you wanted. So being a little kid walking into that was like amazing, even if you're just on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids I remember like myself that I don't know their names, but I like remember their faces, and I remember them being there, and they were all like 12 years old too. And you're all like, what the fuck, where do you come from? Like, oh, I'm from Long Island, or I'm from Connecticut. And you're like, isn't this the best thing ever? So I broke my board at that contest somehow. I don't know. I probably focused it because I don't think I was heavy enough to like really break a board. And Larry Clark invites me back to his house to get another board, like a free board. And like you were saying, you're like, all right, now this dude's taking photos of us.
Yeah.
And now he wants to invite me back to his house. Like, oh, this is getting a little strange. I need a board, which sounds like the worst thing I've ever said. But he was with Tobin Yealand, Andy Roy, Cardiel.
Oh.
I think, who's the other Terche? Not Nick Terche.
Joey
Terche.
Did you know who they were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe even like one of the Paez brothers, like Jesse
Paez.
or Richard Paez.
Richard Paez was the younger brother, yeah.
Like, it was that weird time where like Deluxe and Consolidated, like it was all kind of a like they were all kind of traveling together weirdly. like Karma Toshif might have been there.
Karma was the man.
And so I'm in Larry Clark's house. I don't fucking know who Larry Clark is. I don't know who any of these artists are on his wall. But I know that Andy Roy is sitting over there with his balls out of his pants just to be funny. Like drinking a beer, balls out, no, like not his dick, just his balls. And he's just waiting for someone to notice. And you're like, as like a 14-year-old kid, you're like, this is incredible. And the one thing I always liked about skating is that your heroes are kind of approachable.
Yeah.
You can fucking meet your heroes in skateboarding. Which is strange when your heroes are guys like Andy Roy. But Andy Roy, like Cardiel, like, I don't know, I love that shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was kind of the beginning of like me and Larry sort of becoming friends. And Larry was everywhere around that time. Around the time I was like 14. He like, and I could give you the whole story about how Larry came to skateboarding. But
I know a little bit of it. He was like an artist first and kind of like...
This is what I understand to have happened to get to the making of Kids.
Okay.
Larry Clark is teaching a photography class. Larry Clark's already kind of a well-known photographer in the art world, not really that much so outside of it. He's teaching a photography class in Santa Cruz, but it's to like a lot of older ladies who just want to shoot like still lifes and things like that, and that's not really what Larry does. But Tobin Yeeland takes that class, and he knows who Larry Clark is. And so Larry's looking at Tobin's photos, and imagine this like Thrasher days, like late 80s, like because Kids was made in 93.
Yeah, 93.
And Larry's like going through Tobin's like portfolio, and there's a lot of skateboard photos, like action photos. And Larry's like, yeah, this is cool and all, but like these kids look cooler than the skateboarding itself. Do you have any photos of you guys just hanging out? And Tobin showed him some photos, and Larry's like, this is where it's at. It's all about like the stuff that's not...
The lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not skateboarding. It's all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. And so Tobin introduced Larry, I think, to like Coco Santiago and like all the one. Kind of like SF heavies, you know, like Cardiel.
That's the heaviest of the heavy, right?
And Coco Santiago, Jersey, baby. What are you talking about?
He is originally East Coast. He's right.
Jersey all day.
That's true.
Him and yeah, there's the Lopez brothers. I think Coco Santiago and the Flying Lopez brothers. But so Tobin Yeeland is kind of the reason why Kids ever happened, because Tobin introduced Larry to all those guys, and then Larry broke, like, I don't know where they were in San Francisco or LA, and Larry was like trying to learn how to skate. He's 50 years old. He's trying to skate so he can prove to these guys that he's like down, you know. And they bring him to a hill, I think it's in San Francisco, and it's like Mickey Reyes, Mark Gonzalez, like bunch of like heavy hitters. Nobody wants to bomb this hill. And Larry, being 50 years old, is like, I'll bomb it.
The dude that just learned
how to skate. And I think he bombed it and then like broke his elbow or his knee or hip or something. He broke something. But then those dudes are like, oh, he's down. Like,
So it worked,
yeah. And so, yeah, it was like weird. You know, guys like Mark Gonzalez understood the art thing. I think Julian Stranger got it. Like, there was a lot of dudes who were more intellectual than you would think. And Larry was always kind of an outlaw. Like, you know, he went to jail for shooting a dude. Like, he's like the real deal. He's like...
die?
The other guy, no.
Yeah, okay. That makes it kind of cool.
So, like, Larry always liked people on the fringes. And I think when you look at his photography, you can understand why he would like skateboarding and why skateboarders would like him.
So that day, you at the Banks is when you like or you hadn't met him before.
I'd seen him around.
Okay.
And everybody, I was kind of suspicious.
He took a liking to you and took an interest into you, or for some reason, you had a look or something that.
Yeah. Well, he always said that I was the loudest kid he'd ever met. that every time I wouldn't land a trick, I would go fucking batshit crazy.
You were this kid that threw the board like
Threw
every
the
time.
board. Everything was to blame except for myself and my lack of talent. It was like, fuck everything. And obviously my voice is a little crazy. And so he was just like, I stood out to him because I think he said something like I was the angriest kid he'd ever seen, which is a kind of a compliment from that guy.
What if you never met Larry Clark? What do you think?
Shit, I don't know.
How do you think your life would turn out?
I don't know, because, weirdly, I don't think you can ever, you can never understand how your life would turn out if something hadn't happened. But I've been extremely fortunate in a weird way how my life has turned out. And like everything that has happened, I feel like I've sort of taken advantage of. Like I didn't completely throw it away or think that it was meant to be. But being in kids when you're 17 years old wasn't exactly a blessing either. There's a lot of shit that came with that movie that I was not equipped to deal with.
Well, I want to get into that.
Yeah.
That's one of the
So
questions I
like
want to
kids
ask you.
was a very strange blessing and like taught me a lot about myself that I didn't know I could do. It was so strange to me to be making a movie that I couldn't comprehend that it was real. Nobody thought this movie was ever going to come out.
Yeah.
Nobody thought we were important enough to make a movie about. Like, this was not reality. Like, up until Larry Clark, we'd never met an adult that gave us any kind of respect, let alone told us what we were doing was interesting. It's always like, go get a job, or fuck you, or like, people beating the shit out of us. Larry's like, I like it. And you're like, what? This guy's an adult. He likes what we're doing? Like, that's amazing. So it's just insane the way I never thought I could be an actor. I never thought I don't know what I would.
Like, what was your interest?
I don't know if I had any options.
What were you interested in besides skateboarding?
Skateboarding. That's it.
That's it, right?
That was it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I cared about. And that's like kind of, I think when you're young, you don't really have too many plan Bs.
Yeah.
And even if your plan A, which is skateboarding, will never happen, you don't want to think about plan B. Working at UPS is something you'll eventually have to do, but you're going to put that shit off for a long time.
As long as possible, right?
And like, I had plenty of friends working at UPS and stuff, and like, it's just weird. You just want to live in that moment and hold on to it for as long as possible. The acting shit came out of nowhere. Like, that was very bizarre to me.
So you guys start filming, and you're not taking it seriously. You're kind of just, you're like, yeah, there's this crazy old dude. He says we're doing a movie. He gives us a little bit of money. This is kind of cool. Like, how is all that? Like, you're an outsider. You're coming from Jersey. You get the lead. You're the star of this movie, right? You're here with all the New York dudes. I mean, I don't know how your relationship is. Like, that seems like that might have been a little bit of a nerve-wracking situation.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because I was always kind of an awkward outsider. I was the guy who skated at Union Square by himself.
Okay.
And like waited for people to show up, kind of hung out and then kind of dipped on my own. And I was never like a flamboyant guy like Harold or somebody who was like kind of life of the party. I was just
You're
sort
like
of
around the cool crew, but you're not like fully in.
Yeah, I would just kind of hang out in the shadows.
Yeah.
Like, I was happy with that. And again, like, I'm from Jersey. Like, it's a very well-known thing from Jersey.
You got that
I
stigma
don't
attached to you.
belong. And so kids is starting to happen, and they're casting like everybody, like all my friends, everybody, Harold and everybody. And so the way that I ended up in the lead character of Telly is the first guy, he got too old while they were waiting for the money. Like he went through puberty or something. So he aged out of the
Who
park.
was that? Was he a skater kid? Or?
He was kind of a skater,
Okay.
like a little, probably worse than me. Like not really a skater, kind of like more of a stoner who had a skateboard.
Hung around.
And at the time I was sober, so like I was like a skater, like fucking.
Except
all I
for the
did.
acid.
Well, that was like when I was 14. I'd gotten sober by the time I was 16. I'd seen too much by the time I was 16, so I got sober, which is ridiculous. And then Kim Cardona was supposed to be the Telly. Yeah.
Never knew that. Never heard
So,
that.
and also, somebody's from Jersey if they call him Kim Cardona, not Quim.
I've been saying Quim for like fucking 20 years now.
Yeah, only people from Jersey call
Sorry,
him Kim.
Kim.
No, it's like Kim, but no, Quim was definitely supposed to be Telly, but his mom, I believe, was a nurse. She was like really smart. He comes from like a really smart family. She knew who Larry Clark was, and she said, "No way in hell." Like,
Really?
She knew his photograph. She's like, I don't think you can't be in this movie.
And how did he take that though? Like,
I think,
like he actually listened to her. Like he was
Yeah.
like, okay.
yeah. I mean, I understand her point for sure. And I don't think it would have changed his trajectory in any way. Like he's Kim Cardona, like he's the best. Like I don't know. But then it came down to me. I think it was me. And
It's probably something that you weren't even thinking about at the time. Like, was that a concern of yours? Like,
no,
do I get
was
this part?
so
Do I-
dumb.
yeah, you're just like,
I
whatever.
was so like on cruise control. I was like, yeah, like I'll make a movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so
I
stupid.
guess they want me to play the lead. I don't know.
Yeah. Which I'd never even fathomed saying something in a commercial or a film or anything. Like, I don't know how to memorize lines. I don't know how to do any of that shit. I'd never taken a class. I don't know any of that shit.
Yeah.
And so they asked me if I wanted to do it. I think my mom read the script because I was 16. I was the youngest person. So I was 16, and my mom said, "No, you can't do that." And I think I was like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah, for sure.
And then at some point, Larry wanted to meet her, and they became friends. And
Okay.
she was like, "I know this is what he's doing, but I don't know how that will come across in a film." She was really honest about what we were doing every day. She knew that she couldn't control me and that we were skating and drinking and doing drugs. And she understood that, but she understood better than me what that would look like to the rest of the world.
Of course.
Once it was in a film. And she was just trying to protect me. But of course, I'm like, fuck you, I'm doing it. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna be at work. Like, I'm gonna go make a movie.
Was it like nerve-wracking, like the filming? Like, how did you, with the rest of the crew, like, how did you guys get along? Like, how was it?
Not well.
No?
I mean, again, it's like, it's weird because Justin, Harold, like Pete BC, like a lot of people were just hanging around set because it was something to do. That summer, I swear to God, there was something about that summer that was so magical about people just being in New York. You know, like Little Gary and
Even the guys from SF took the fucking Greyhound out there. Nick Lockman,
Yeah.
Gary Smith, Geese.
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking those dudes, like, they were like 14 or something.
Yeah.
They took the Greyhound to New York, end up in a movie.
Yeah. And there was a lot of guys from DC up here. It was just something, I don't know if people even knew there was a movie being made. It just seemed like that summer people gravitated towards New York. So basically, like, I'm the New Jersey guy that's now representing New York.
Exactly.
Doesn't go over that well. It, like, was not that great. And me and Justin Pierce didn't get along. Because Justin is probably about 18, I'm 16. Justin is like naturally charismatic, cool, like basically Matt Dillon or something. You know, he's like the guy you want to be.
Yeah.
I'm like a mega insecure 16-year-old skate rat, not that good, sober dude. Justin's just charismatic, like, fuck it, I'm getting drunk and I'll still like be the best actor around and smoke weed and like everybody loves me. I'm like, did that turn out okay? You know, it's like we were just so different to the point where we like fist fought on set and stuff.
You did?
Oh yeah. And Larry'd be like, what are you guys doing? You're supposed to be best friends. I'd be like, I fucking hate this dude. He'd like, I fucking hate you. And then, yeah, so there was a lot of that shit, which was only during the filming. When the movie actually came out, it got way worse.
Worse?
Way worse. Because the filming was like internal politics.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh yeah, this guy isn't even from New York. Like, fuck this dude. When the film came out, like now I am
Now you're
representing
the, guy,
the city to the rest of the world, which is insane because a lot of people didn't understand that it's a fucking movie. Like that movie blurred the line so much between what's real and what's not that a lot of people somewhat thought that it wasn't, maybe if it wasn't a documentary, a lot of it was based on reality.
Yeah.
So they didn't know where the movie started and the reality ended.
I wanted to get to that because I know you caught you were getting a lot of heat after that.
Yeah, I was like a villain. Like I
Yeah.
was like the dude who would not only steal your daughter's virginity, but give her AIDS in the process. Like I was, for a moment in time, like the worst dude. And
I know dudes were like, people were talking shit to you in the street and stuff.
oh yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, how did that like affect your like game with girls and shit?
Terrible, terrible.
Like, did that make
No.
them want to be with you, or were you like that creepy guy from the fucking movie?
Yeah, no. So,
Because it could go either way, you know. It could be like a reverse psychology, or like, you know, they could want you or not want you.
It's really bizarre because like, all right, I've already established that I'm like a super awkward kid, like kind of the guy who skates by himself, who just kind of rolls around. And that's been pretty, I don't know, prevalent in my life for the most part. Girls, going back to being sober after all the acid use of age 14, I realized when you're 14, you're not really good at talking to girls while on acid. So if I'm gonna wanna make some strides here with like the girl thing, I should probably stop taking acid. And so I was like, if I'm ever gonna hook up with somebody, I need to be like sober so I can actually have a decent conversation with a person that they would then hook up with me.
That's a very mature thought
Yeah.
process for a 16-year-old.
Yeah. So I was sober between, I think it was something like 16 and 18 for like 2 years, those 2 years. And so maybe before kids, I had like a version of sex, like loosely.
When you were filming kids, were you a virgin?
No, but I was not experienced.
Okay.
Like I said, I had like a loose version
Okay.
of maybe
Heavy petting.
sex. Yeah, like very sloppy, like trying to figure things out. So like, and that's like maybe once. Like I maybe had sex once. But this is where the auditioning is really amazing for kids because it's a bunch of people talking about all their sexual escapades. But it is basically a bunch of kids like making shit up, which is acting, which is brilliant. Like where it's everybody like, well, yeah, I fucked like 15 bitches and like blah, blah, blah. But you're like, dude, he's totally bullshitting, but that's acting. Like, you know, it like makes so much sense. And they would do the auditions. The original auditions were like 10 guys in a room just talking about sex. And then they would figure out which 5 were the best. They would whittle them down and then 3, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what the hell I would have said because I really hadn't really had sex or too much. Somehow I ended up there. But yeah, so it's interesting to having no game whatsoever at talking with girls to now being a villain in a movie where you're like kind of a slick guy or whatever. Or like,
But going back to that, so did that work in your favor, or did it?
no,
No.
like
I mean, you're now like essentially kind of a movie star.
yeah,
You've starred in a movie. You're not like that should
yeah,
be pretty.
it should. Like I understand the way of being in a movie should be attractive
Yeah.
to a certain type of person. But I was never good at like promoting myself and being like, I'm the guy in that movie. Harold was great at that shit. Harold would roll up to a club and be like, I was in that movie. And everybody would be like, oh, it's Harold. And they let him in. I'd be like, I was in that thing too. Like, but like super shy. So yeah, it was like, you know, it was, I don't know. I feel like in that time I was so in my head and weird that I blocked a lot of it out, and I don't want to when Kids was finished, I moved to London.
Yeah, I wanted to go into
Yeah,
that.
because I didn't want to be in New York anymore. Because it was too much to be here and be a part of that movie. For a guy who's from Jersey and socially awkward, it was like, where can I go? Yeah. Where can I go to escape this for at least a year? And that was London. Yeah. And weirdly, thinking about the shit that I got after Kids, one of my favorite stories, I mean, I don't know like how old I was. I mean, I guess I was 18 or something, I don't know. But I was hanging out, and I think me and Ryan Hickey were trying to hit on the same girl. He said, you know why I wasn't in that movie Kids? Because I ain't no kid. I was like, that's kind of sick. Touche, you win that one. You know, that's the kind of shit I was getting.
Did he get the girl?
Yeah, he definitely got the girl. I was like, fuck. You're like, I would be like, hand her up. That's the kind of shit I was getting left and right. Like kind of like not direct fuck yous, but a lot of like little fuck yous. And like, it wasn't about the film, it was about being from Jersey, and like, oh man, it's like tough. And the other thing is, so we make this movie, right? And nobody tells us what to do after. Nobody tells us what to expect. Nobody tells us how to get an agent. Nobody tells us anything. So we go from making a movie to just sitting back in Union Square by ourselves and being like, oh, cool, but now people know us or whatever. And you're like, all right, well, sick. Like, so what did it do except for like make us strangely famous? Not even like a good famous. Like, now this is strange because people are like, oh, you're that fucked up dude. You're like, sick.
What Kids always was for me was like when it came out, we went and saw it. We saw it at the theater in Embarcadero. Like basically the whole Embarcadero crew went and saw it at like the Embarcadero One Plaza or whatever. And like the thing that I always liked about Kids was that whenever people would ask me like, you know, how was your life growing up? Or like, how was your, you know, I would be like, have you seen Kids? It's like that without the AIDS.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was always kind of like it always was the best representation of my childhood in a sense. It was like kind of, you know, inner city kids, you know, girls, guys, skaters, all, you know, some people coming from the project, some people coming from, you know, upper class homes, but all mingling together, kind of outsiders and weirdos, you know. And that was the great thing about it. It represented skateboarding, like 100%, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's what my mom saw when she read the script and kind of met Larry and agreed to let me do the film, is that everything except for the sex is like 100% accurate. And that's where Larry did the great thing of getting Harmony Korine to write the script, who was 19 at the time. You know, all the words are true, everything's true, all the situations are true. Like my mom understood that. And yeah, I don't think anything was that. To me, that's the crazy thing when people are like, this movie is crazy, or this movie is shocking. And I'm like, really?
You're
Like, because it's
oh,
kind of like just like a Tuesday for us. Outside of the sex was the most far-reaching, crazy thing ever because nobody was having sex. It wasn't even about the AIDS. It was about the idea of getting girls. Like nobody was getting girls.
Definitely. I mean, we might have been having sex, but it was like, 2 minutes? 1 minute?
Well, it's also like you have the one person who's, or the few people who are actually into skaters in that time period. And you're kind of like, all right, cool. Or, I when I was a little older, I wanted to move to Philadelphia. And then I realized there was no girls in Philadelphia. And if there were girls, Ricky and Serge and all those guys already had them. It's like just, it's weird how that kind of stuff can dictate where you live, where you're like, well, if I live here, there might be actual girls I can talk to. But skateboarding, your place. And you're like, well, if I move to Philly, then Ricky, Serge, Matt Reasons, and Jerry Fowler, I think was his name. They were the kings of Philly at the time. And
Matt Reason, yeah, rest in peace.
And you're kind of as far as girls are concerned, you're like, well, they get their pick. I'm getting the.
I wanted to ask you that earlier. You touched on that a little bit. The movie comes out, right? What do you do now? Who's even in skateboarding, we didn't really have anybody who kind of show us the ropes.
No,
even if you have a team manager, he's nowhere to be found. So the movie comes out. What do you do now?
Yeah, so it's so
how do you figure out how to navigate a career?
Everything is so dysfunctional when it comes to the making of kids and everything and what happens after. So basically, during kids, I forget how it worked out, but we could take out loans on our paycheck. But you're talking about a bunch of 16-year-old kids, So our paycheck for the whole movie was $5,000.
Okay.
And that's it to this day. That's all we got paid. But now you could go buy Jordans whenever you want. You could go buy blunts, you could buy 40s, whatever.
20 here, 40 here.
Yeah. So I think I know my final paycheck at the end of the movie was $2,500. I would imagine there's some people like Harold, whose paycheck at the end of the movie was $40. Because it was his bank account, going and getting whatever he needed. I remember the movie ends, we have a little bit of money.
Was there anybody that had the whole 5,000 at the end?
Maybe one of the female actresses, Rosario or something. Rosario I think she might have been younger than me. No, she might have been, because I was supposedly the youngest. But maybe Rosario was a little younger. But no, it was free money. We were all insane. And so after Kids was finished, and I'm not even sure how I got on this trip, but I think it was me, Harold, Justin, Jeff Pang.
Are you guys closer by this time? You and Justin?
Sorta.
You guys are all right. He cool.
Sort of. It happens in LA when we're both living in LA. So at the end of Kids, I don't know why, I think Kids, it was a summertime movie, and then whatever the next ASR San Diego show was happening, we all fly out to it.
Okay.
But just because we had money from the film, it wasn't to promote the film or anything. We end up in ASR, and there's a World Industry booth with boxes of boards or something. Somehow our hotel room got filled with boxes of World Industry boards.
That's
cool. they were stolen for sure.
Was Stephen Callis there maybe?
He wasn't on this trip. But so everybody kind of knew it was Harold and those dudes. But Harold's it's not me. Why would I steal boards? It's the dude from Jersey, right? So again, and I'm the awkward guy being it's not me. And they'll be like, no, we're pretty sure it's you. And I'll be like, well, I don't even have any friends. Why would I steal board? I'm just trying to figure out my fucking way in this world. And then after that, we went to San Francisco. And Hamilton Harris was on that trip. And by this point, somehow my reputation as a grand larceny board stealer had spread. And now I'm even an outcast. Like all the New York dudes have like thrown me under the bus. Like he stole all those boards. I wasn't even like invited to a single party, let alone stealing boards. So in SF, luckily Tim O'Connor and Poncho were there.
Oh, your boys.
Yeah.
Jersey came through for you.
Yeah. And Harold and Hamilton and those dudes went off and did their thing. It was weird. I don't think they had a great trip. There were some things that happened on that trip that I was glad I wasn't around for. But yeah, it was like I was always the outsider. Like even if I was in that movie, it didn't really matter because I was never going to be a New Yorker.
But was there any thoughts of like, okay, now I'm going to start like an acting career? Like,
No.
how long did it take you to start realizing like, okay, I've done this, I can make something out of this and run with it?
I'd say like it took me about like 7, 8 years to come to terms with it. Yeah. Like I always thought I would just make the one movie and be done with it. Like, because I'm so awkward, as I've mentioned 100 times already. Like, I'm not comfortable being in that role. I'd rather work at UPS. I'd rather work in a warehouse packing boxes. Like that's where I belong. You know, in my head, that's where I belong. That's what I'd be good at. Acting just seems insane. Like I don't have the passion for it, like that I should, that I know other people do. Like I got lucky in getting the opportunity to do it, but it's not my dream to do it.
Yeah.
It's like a job, and I'm lucky to get that job when I can get it. But, you know, when Kids ended, there was nobody saying, here's how you get an agent. This is, you should go to LA and try to get on a TV show or something. It was like, cool, thanks for your service. See you later. Kind of like skateboard industry. Like cool, like you put out one amazing part, that was cool, but you blew out your knee or something, whatever, like see you later. And you're kind of like, oh, thanks for looking out for me.
So you moved to London, right?
Yeah, I moved to London. The other crazy thing about acting is I'm very well aware of my voice and my looks and how that doesn't necessarily fit in with like Hollywood. So I've always been very conscious of that. And Larry's actually told me that he said something along the lines of, how did Larry put it? Larry said, we had to cast an ugly person because a good-looking guy wouldn't need to chase pussy. That's how he described my character. And they also wanted to give me a lot of speech lessons and things like that. Like,
but isn't that part of the charm of your character, though?
well, no, he said it in a loving way. It didn't come off that way when I heard it, but that's how he said it. So yeah, there's like a lot of weird shit where it's like know your place. Like from the beginning, it's like know your place. Don't get like too ambitious. Don't get too crazy. And like, so it's sort of cool. Like, yeah.
But he didn't mentor you in any way. Like
we're
okay,
still
this
friends.
is what you do. This is what you do now. Like,
no, there was none of that. Like the other weird thing about when the film ended was that they didn't necessarily use any of the actors or kids to promote the film. It was all Larry and Harmony, and I think that was a way of blurring the lines between is this real or is this fake? It was like Miramax or whoever distributed the movie knew that they had to keep it seemingly real. That would sell more tickets. If you expose it that these are all actors, then that's kind of like, oh, well, whatever.
Just
but if you
leave it in
blur
the
the
gray
lines,
area,
that kind of creates like a sensationalism or whatever. So yeah, the film ends, and now I'm still fucking sitting at Astor, Union Square, just kind of like, shit, like now people recognize me. That's even worse.
so finally, you get to a point where you're like, I'm just gonna fucking leave the country.
Yeah. So I went back. At this point, I like completely dropped out of school. I work at a skate shop in Jersey called Premier, and I'm kind of living with my mom. Oh, with the money I didn't spend on going to San Francisco for that horrible trip, I bought a Honda CRX.
Okay.
Which seemed...
At least you bought something.
Yeah,
You got something of value out of the... out of the...
Yeah, Honda CRX, the gift that keeps on giving. But it's weird because now I'm getting threatening calls at my mom's house.
From
like,
who?
From fucking randos, like weird people just being like, hey, I saw you in that movie, you're a fucking asshole, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Like, I'm getting threatening calls a lot. And it's not that I'm like stressing them out, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's a fucking movie or whatever. But like, I can't work at the skate shop because people are calling there. People know where to find me. And this is like pre-internet bullying. Like, I can't imagine what it's like nowadays. My mom and dad are from Ireland.
Okay.
So I have an Irish passport, which didn't really mean anything back then. But I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, I'm gonna move to London. Like, maybe I'd seen it in like Rad magazine, or I knew about like Curtis McCann and sort of those type of guys. But London just seemed easy because I spoke the language.
Yeah.
And so I literally, I think I have like $300 or something, which it's amazing what we could do with $300 back in the day. You're like, I'm going to Barcelona for 6 months with $300.
It's because we didn't worry about it.
Yeah. And you
just
could
whatever
figure it
happens, happens. You figure it out.
So I go to London and I stay in a youth hostel for 2 weeks. And I don't even know how I found this youth hostel, what I was doing in London. But I knew from some skateboard mags that Slam City was the shop in Covent Garden. And so within a few days, I figured out how to get to Covent Garden. I went to Slam City. And I think that night I went skating with a bunch of the dudes.
They knew who you were?
No, I think the movie hadn't come out yet.
Oh, okay.
I think I moved there for the year. Back then it used to take like a year for
it takes
movies
a
to
while.
come out in Europe. So they just knew I was like a New York guy who had like a Zoo York board, and they were like, "Whoa, that's cool." So that night I went out skating with a bunch of guys, and one of those guys was my friend Seth Curtis, who became my roommate. He had a room in Stockwell that I moved into. And it was so cheap. I don't know how much it cost, but it's definitely not that cheap anymore. And I would just kind of have product and a lot of like weird polo gear, like double RL, like a lot of like outlet mall shit that I would sell to the Japanese kids over there.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did you get a job, or like what did you?
No, I was like never really qualified to do anything. Like, so I would just sell shit. I mean, there were definitely some days where I was broke as hell, like everybody else, but it was more about just flipping gear. Like, all right, like I got like this weird polo sweatshirt. Like, it's where I was introduced to streetwear culture, like Duffer of St. George, like all that weird Bathing Ape stuff. Like, the Japanese kids in London really educated me about that, like collecting streetwear. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so when I would have a Zoo York shirt, they'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, Zoo York, that's the shit. We can't get that here.
Yeah.
We'll pay for it. And you're like, okay.
You're like, all right, take it. I
Yeah,
got more than enough. Like,
yeah. So London was great, you know, like
what were you there? How long were you there for? Like a year?
a year, like roughly a year. It was just like a good cooling off period. And then, yeah, but it was weird, like skating South Bank with like Tom Penny and shit. Like, dude, I had a fucking night with Tom Penny. Like, fucking.
I can imagine.
Like, that was the beauty of being a skateboarder. It's just, you're like in London, you're at a Metalheads rave, like, which is Goldie's night in London. Tom Penny's there, he's fucking out of his mind. You end up back at some girl's like grandmother's house on their living room floor, like making out with a girl. Tom Penny's making out with another girl. You're like, what the fuck is this life? It's just incredible.
When's the last time you've seen Tom Penny?
It's probably like that night or something. But he would always just roll through roll through South Bank and just kind of like be like Tom Penny, and you'd be like, oh, sick. Like, he was always cool.
Yeah,
he was never a rock star. Like, he was just like, what up? Like, fucking stoned or drunk or whatever. You're like, that dude's like Jim Morrison or something. But like, I love London. Like, it's still my second favorite city. A year goes by where I'm living in London, and then I come back to New York. I basically run out of money. Like I can't.
You got to a point where you're like, fuck. Did you want to come back, or were you like?
I just didn't know that I had any options. It was just like, fuck, all right, that happened. So I came back to New York. I still hate New York. This is like, now the movie's been out, I fucking just hate New York. But I've been kind of trained to hate New York at this point, like, because I'm from Jersey, and that's like what you do. So I moved to LA.
I wanted to ask you that. I didn't know if you ever lived in LA or not.
Yeah, I bet I've seen you in LA, but you didn't know who I was.
I would have known who you were, I think.
Nah, I was on the deal.
Maybe we would have saw you at like Kibit's room or something.
No, I was there way before that. I was there like
Really?
96.
Oh, wow.
Keenan had a birthday party at my house
Where?
in the Hollywood Hills one year.
Dude,
I don't know if you were there for that.
for some, that rings a bell.
There was a
though.
pool, like a big pool party. It was packed,
Who were you living with?
like a bunch of randos.
Like all actor weirdos
Yeah.
and shit? Do you move to LA with the like intention of like, I'm gonna take this acting thing seriously? Or like, what's your thought process at this point in time?
So my thought process is I'm not going home. I'm not going to my mom's house. Like, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure my mom still had the house we grew up in, but that was never an option, was like going home. So like basically I'd been kind of out of the house since I was 16. Now this is maybe around 19 or something we're at. And so I come back to the city. Somehow, I don't know why, it's just worse. Like, because now not only am I a guy that's famous for doing a movie, but I'm also a guy that hasn't done anything since. So it's like, I'm not trying to be famous because I did that one thing. It's just, I haven't figured out what to do next.
And I can imagine there's plenty of people that like to remind you that you haven't done shit since, right?
Yeah, but you're also kind of being like, well, nobody kind of like helped me out and told me what I should do next. Like I literally have a landline. Like I don't, like nobody's calling my phone. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But in that time period, Ted Newsom moved to New York.
Okay.
To do, he was like editing Transworld via New York, and he was doing his like New York Minute columns. And through that, I'd met Steve Barra. And so I'm not sure how this happened, but I think Steve was like, come to LA, you could sleep on my floor. Steve like came out here to shoot like a Warp cover, Warp magazine.
Yeah, they used to do a bunch of kind of weird
Yeah,
shit.
and Ted Newsom was the bridge between all that. And Steve is kind of a cinephile, he likes movies a lot. And he always wanted to make movies or be an actor.
Was he with Juliette Lewis at the time?
Not yet.
Okay.
Like I'm thinking about things I haven't thought of in years. So Steve was like, hey, if you want to come to LA, you could stay on my couch, no big deal. What I didn't know at that time was like Steve and Eric Costin lived together. And the person who had been sleeping on the couch before me was Sheffy.
Okay.
And Steve was writing for Birdhouse. I guess Costin was on Girl. His S shoe had maybe just came out because they had so many crazy colorways around the house.
Yeah.
Like just weird shit. They had so much product, and it would just be on the front porch. And like, I don't know how it didn't just get stolen.
Yeah.
Like there was so much stuff. Orion trucks, like everywhere. No dishes or cups, but they had tons of skate product.
Probably a lot of empty pizza boxes and
Yeah.
Sega Genesis.
And so I think around that time, in London, I started like drinking again, kind of like hanging out drinking. Because London, that's
Kind of
like,
hard not to over there.
yeah, it's like 6 p.m. Like you just go out, have a drink. So me and Steve never been like the same kind of person, but we've always gotten along really well. Like he knows I don't like buy into half the shit he does. He doesn't buy into half the shit I do. But somehow we're like brothers. We
works.
just like agree to disagree. And Eric was always just like I guess the most understanding roommate ever, because he just kind of like didn't give a shit. Like he's like, oh hey, what's up, Leo? I'm like, hey, what's up, Eric? Like, you don't mind that I've been on your couch for like 3 months at this point? Like, he just didn't care. It's incredible. And still when I see Eric, he's like the nicest dude to me. And I'm like...
That's what I said to Gino, because I slept on his couch for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was like normal back in the days. It was like, you just got some random dude on the couch. You kind of know.
Yeah, and I remember nights on the couch with one or both of those dudes, like trying to sneak girls through the living room. Like, don't mind him. Like, he's just sleeping on the couch, but like, we'll get to my room and it'll be fine. But like, how awkward is that? Like, you're an adult, you're a pro skateboarder, you have a roommate.
Well, you're an adult.
Who also has who also is a pro skateboarder, but you also still have a guy just sleeping on the couch. like, and Eric Costin is like the best. And he's like living with a dude. Like those are like the earliest World Industry demos I went to back in Westville. Like, you know, you put skateboarders on such a high plane, and then when you see the way they live day to day, you're like, whoa, those dudes are all pro skateboarders, but they all live in the same house. Like, what?
But when you think about it, they had like a house off of Melrose. Pretty nice with like a front yard, didn't have to wake up at any time, could do whatever they want whenever they wanted. But they're just like kids with like a bunch of money, basically.
But it didn't, like, what I'm trying to say is it seemed like a fair amount of money at the time, but it didn't seem like anybody was rich.
Oh, definitely not.
And the fact that a few months
They were on their way.
Yeah, they were on their way, but they were still like roommates. You're like, dude, you're like the best at your thing, and you have a roommate? What kind of shit is that?
So what are you doing these months when you're sleeping on the couch? What are you there doing?
So I think for a while, I know I swept up behind Brooklyn projects, like I swept out lots.
What?
But I don't know if it was for Brooklyn projects. But I know it's behind Brooklyn Projects, or where Brooklyn Projects is now next to the car wash.
You still haven't acted in anything since kids?
No.
Okay.
No. And then, so this is kind of like really great, which is still strange to me. For a minute, I was Damon Wayans' assistant. Yeah. And that's the shit that happens when you live in Hollywood. One day you wake up and you find yourself
You gotta tell me about this,
Damon
man.
Wayans' assistant.
How did this happen?
So I think it was through Steve. Steve's friend worked for Damon Wayans.
Okay.
And he needed an assistant, and I needed money.
What were your duties?
So the two things I remember doing while being Damon Wayans' assistant was, so Steve had this car he passed down to me, and it was an old Volvo. It was called the Brown Growler. And he had a crazy ex-girlfriend who like ripped up all the upholstery, like wrote shit in the ceiling with a lighter. Like, this car was like busted. And it, like, if it rained, the rain would just come straight in the car. And Damon Wayans asked me to go to Gucci to buy him leather pants in 3 different sizes so he could try them on, and then I would return the 2 pairs that didn't fit. Like, he couldn't be bothered to go and try on pants. Of course. He would just have me buy
you bring it to the house, he tries it.
So I remember it was raining that day. And even though I'm in a car, it's like I'm being poured on. Driving to Gucci to buy these pants that cost, I mean, this car might have cost like $600, but these pants were like $1,200 or something.
Probably.
Yeah, each. So I'm buying like $6,000 worth of pants in a car that costs like $400. And so that was one, and I think I went and I gave him the pants. He tried them on. He returned the 2 pair. The whole thing was just so absurd. Leather pants to me is still absurd. Like, this is like Damon Wayans. I'm not sure what show. This isn't in Living Color days. This is like way past in
Maybe
Living
it was,
Color.
he had the Wayans brothers.
Maybe around then. But so the leather pants thing really struck a chord. So he had a house in Malibu, which I don't know if like maybe his wife knew about it or something. But he made me go to Pier 1 Imports and decorate his house. So that's like the world I'm living in, right? Where it doesn't
Wait,
even
where do you
matter.
sleep at? You still,
I'm
then
still
at
on
night
Barra's
you still
couch.
go to Barra's couch.
Yeah.
But he's got to be paying you pretty good money, right?
I honestly can't remember. Like, no, not enough to get my own place. Eventually I moved to Genesee down the street.
Okay.
And I did get my own, or I lived in somebody's kitchen nook. But I did move out at some point. But like, this is the world I'm living in. And it says so much, not only about the absurdity of things, but about like the taste that's going into these ideas. Leather pants and Pier 1 Imports. That's the world I'm living in LA.
How did you decorate his house? Did he like it
remember
or
there was
did he
like
not like it?
Kind of a clear, like a glass bust of a head. I remember that was really absurd. I was like, this thing's fucking retarded. Let's buy this. There was just like the dumbest shit I could find.
But was he into it in the end?
I don't think we talked after that. So probably not. But it's like weird, you're like given a celebrity's credit card and they're like, go buy my house some furniture. And you're like, sure, I'm 19. Yeah, like that sounds like a great idea. And you're like, what would I buy if I'm rich, but I'm 19? You're like, a useless glass head seems like the perfect thing a rich person would buy. You know, it's like, it's so insane.
That was the end of that relationship, or what?
Yeah.
How long
But
were
I
you
do
his
remember,
assistant for?
not very long, like 6 months, maybe 9 months, something like that. But I do remember at the end of our working relationship, Damon Wayans gave me like cigarellos dipped in cognac.
Oh, okay.
And I had never smoked at that point, but I thought that was pretty fucking
That's some
classy.
G shit.
Like I was like, cognac, like I'd heard about that shit. And I might have been sober again at that point. But I was like, damn, like you just like dipped a cigar in cognac? Like that shit sounds expensive. And that was Damon Wayans' shit. I mean, he wore leather pants. Like he was baller, you know.
So you're still in LA. After Damon Wayans, when do you finally say like, I'm gonna, you know what, I've been in a movie, I'm an actor.
It wasn't in LA.
Like what does it take you to get to that point?
I don't know. I think I moved back to New York. Like basically in LA, like so I lived on Genesee, like off Melrose, like Fairfax High was across the street, still like skate rap mode, skating all the time. I'm down with Steve, I'm down with Eric. Kind of Keenan, a little bit, like, you know, but I'm not really cool by any means or measure. But then I meet a girl named Hillary. And Hillary was down with Gino, with Guy, with all those dudes. And Hillary had recently been pulled over, and I think somebody pulled a gun out of her car, and they got in a lot of trouble. She had a Range Rover, and she had a gun in the glove compartment because she's from Kentucky, and her dad was like, "You should always have a gun in your glove compartment." But then, like, some of the skaters was like, "Oh, a gun, like let's
play with it."
Play with it.
Yeah.
But they're on the 101 or something, and so the cops arrested her. But so Hillary actually like introduced me to like all the LA skaters. Like she knew them better than I did. She was hanging out with like Carissa Glucksman, like a lot of like.
But you already knew her from like, you guys had already been in Kids together and stuff.
Yeah, I knew Carissa, but I didn't know Hillary. But me and Hillary started dating. And that's when Keenan had his birthday at my house, which was around my birthday. It was like kind of a joint birthday. And that's when me and Justin Pierce got along again. And that's like, LA was, it's weird. Like I had to go to LA to be accepted by New York. Like it was like in LA, we were kind of all on equal footing. Like it was sort of, it's interesting. It's sort of like last man on earth scenario, like where, oh, I don't like this person until it's the two of you against the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Now we're all friends because we need each other.
Yeah.
That's what LA was like for New York dudes, you know?
Well, I always say the further that you get away from wherever you're from is where you bond the most,
Yeah.
you know?
Like if I went to Barcelona or Berlin,
And then you meet another
and then I
American
meet
guy.
another guy and I'm like, hey, we know the same shit, let's stick together.
Yeah.
So LA was like, God, it's just weird because I know I moved back to New York with Hillary. We started dating at some point. And then I moved back to New York. I think now I'm 21 or something. This is like I'm 21. Like I've been like lost for so long. It's amazing. it's like exhausting and amazing. But yeah, but I think at the end of the day, the whole thing is like just not being comfortable with where you're at. And so I came back to New York, still didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but that's when I fell in with like the art world and musicians. Mm-hmm. And again, it's through this girl, Hillary. She was like kind of this like introduction to like all the weirdos in New York. She had this amazing ability of like knowing everybody.
So you guys moved together back to New York?
We moved back, yeah.
Okay.
And then I started doing like some things off and on, like acting wise. But like I was never.
You don't have an agent. You don't have.
No, I kind of like started working with some people, but to this day, I still haven't figured out that shit. I'm not with like a real agent or anything. I got like a manager, I have an agent, but I'm not like in demand.
Yeah.
It's like nobody's fucking blowing up my phone.
So then how did Bully come about?
So Bully was just Larry. Like Larry was like, I like Leo. I don't know if I auditioned for that. They wanted Jared Leto.
Okay.
And Larry's like, no, it's Leo. And no, Larry made me audition because he was like, get in my face. Like he's like, can you intimidate me or something weird like that? Because I had to like, get in his face, but fuck you, son, or whatever. To like this dude who's basically my father. But again, it's like Larry, like all the studios are like, not him, like, please. Like he's the worst.
How do you know they're saying that?
Because Larry tells me, he's like, they don't want you, man. Larry's like so cruel. Like he's just like, yeah. So basically, the studios say like you suck. So we're gonna have to film something really quick to prove to them that you can be in this movie. He's like, but I want you in it. It's kind of like that little like, but you know, I want you in it, but they think you're terrible. Like, thanks a lot. Dude, I've been like getting shit on my whole fucking career. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like so good. Like I don't know any other way. So it's like great. Like I love it, you know, especially being like a self-deprecating skateboarder. New Jersey was really good at being cynical, like pre-Larry David, like Tim O'Connor, Poncho, all of us, we're so good at being cynical and like self-deprecating that sometimes it becomes like too much.
It goes too far.
Where you're like, dude, all right, we get it. Like, but sometimes it really helps you get through a bad spot, like, which is
Well,
like.
it's good to laugh at things, right?
Yeah,
It's good
like
to have
I
a
feel like
sense of humor
Tim's
about
shtick
shit.
goes a little far sometimes. So I'm like, all right, Tim, turn it off. Like Bobby's conspiracy theory thing, where you're like, all right, I get it. But the Bully thing, it's weird. Like I must have started acting a little bit because I shot Bully in this other film called Storytelling at the same time. Because in Storytelling, I play a guy with cerebral palsy.
That was the Steve Barra movie?
No, that's not the Steve Barra movie. That's this director, Todd Solondz.
Oh, okay.
But, I had made a movie with Steve. In the meantime, we went to Nebraska. Like, I still love Steve. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people talk shit on Steve. I think he kind of likes it a little bit.
He likes it a little bit, I think.
But like whenever Steve's in New York, I see him. Whenever I'm in LA, I see him. Like we're so different, but like an older brother, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, he knows I don't give a shit about like half the shit he does. He doesn't give a shit about half.
You guys like each other genuinely for who you are as a
like he knows like I'll fucking drink a beer and smoke a cigarette in front of him, and he just like accepts it.
Yeah.
Which is like all you really want out of your friends is like
sure.
acceptance, like not judgment. And it might seem like he can be judgmental, but he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Definitely.
he is.
I mean,
But he is.
I never
But
had
he's
any.
not.
A lot of people
Yeah.
see him that way, but
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're all just like dorks. Doesn't really matter. Like, are you that offended that another dork judged you? Like, we're all dorks. Like, nobody in the real world knows about us. But, so yeah, Larry wanted me to do Bully. But again, the studio was like, he sucks. Like, let's not use him. Let's use Jared Leto. And
so you beat out Jared Leto.
so
for the
yeah,
part.
somehow I beat out an Oscar winner.
That's amazing.
I took a little money out of his pocket. But the fucked up thing about Bully was Larry is the type of person where if we couldn't shoot in the location that the actual murders happened, he would shoot next door. And the next door's neighbors would like know about this thing. So it's like he was working really closely within the borders of like what was appropriate.
Yeah.
And again, like I was like not right for the role. I don't know. I did another film at that same time, like I was saying, storytelling, where I played somebody with cerebral palsy, which was like, it's a good movie, but I'm terrible in it. And so that was like the bigger problem for me, was dealing with the fact that I really didn't nail it in this one movie. Which like acting is not easy.
But are you being hard on yourself, or did other people say you didn't nail it?
I'm probably being a little hard on myself, but it's weird when you're actually given a challenge to be a good actor and you realize like, ooh, I fucking missed the mark on that. That's like when acting is like a real job. Doing kids was not acting. Like, yeah, I had to memorize a lot of lines and make out with some girls, like, and I got paid for it, but that's not acting. That was pretty much 99% of what I'd be doing anyway, except for like the sex stuff. When you're given like a real role and you're like, okay, play somebody that has a disability, you're like, all right, cool. And then you're like, fuck, I fucked that up. Which is like fucked up because it's like a disservice to those people with the disabilities. So you're like, hey.
You do Bully. After that, you're supposed to go to LA to do some Robert Redford movie. You get in a car. You're getting a car accident.
Yeah.
Was that a movie that was? What movie was that? What it came out?
It was called The Last Castle.
Was it a big movie or?
I mean, it was like James Gandolfini and Robert Redford. So yeah, like my acting career has always been touch and go, spotty. Like I thought we could skip this whole period because I forget about getting hit by the car. But the getting hit by the car was like a big deal.
Because you already had the role, right?
Yeah, I had the role. It was like fine, I was getting paid. So, in my time in living in LA, post-Genesee, when I was living across from Fairfax High School, I moved to Echo Park with Laban Fadias.
Oh wow, the magician, the
Yes.
skateboarder magician.
Yeah. So me and Laban lived together. Maybe some other randos, like random people.
This is okay. This is before you went back to New York.
This is before I went back to New York. See, there's a lot crammed in there that
I know, we're kind of jumping back and
that I even
forth.
forget about. But so before I moved back to New York with my girlfriend Hillary at the time, I was living in LA with Laban Fadias in Echo Park. When Echo Park was still like pretty grimy, and like helicopters every night, gunshots. But it was cool. Like you respect your neighbors, they respected you. No big deal. Laban's a weird dude, can get along with anyone.
Yeah, he's a weirdo.
So I moved back to New York, and I book a part in that movie called The Last Castle.
Okay.
But at the same time, Larry Clark is making a movie in LA called Ken Park, which is another script that Harmony wrote, but was never really made. There's a lot of weird history about that movie. I think it's Ken Park.
It came out though.
Like in Japan.
Oh, it did?
Or like France.
Oh,
Didn't get like a lot of distribution.
okay.
But so I fly to LA to shoot a cameo in Larry's movie because like we'd always talked about like I'd be in every single one of his movies just because like we're buddies. So I flew to LA to do a cameo in his movie before going to South Carolina to shoot The Last Castle. So the night I fly into LA, it's Chris Naracco's birthday. Naracco, another Jersey boy. Love Jersey boys. So we go to the Bigfoot Lodge. I think it was the bar on Glendale Boulevard.
That spot, yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason, like Newsom's there, a lot of people I know are there, Naracco's there. I decided to like kind of leave early or something. Maybe I like to shoot the next morning. So I leave early and I'm just crossing Glendale Boulevard. Like I'm leaving with people, probably like 10 at night or whatever. I get hit by a car out of fucking nowhere, like boom. And like my shoe goes flying. I fly over the car. Next thing I look up, there's like no more cars around. Like there's not, like that car never even hit its brakes.
Just kept going.
Just fucking hit me and just kept going. But I went over the car, like I took off the
like you flew, like you were
side
in the
view
air,
mirror, whatever. And they knew they hit something, but maybe they were drunk, I don't know. Which is what my feeling about LA drinking and driving is crazy.
Kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And so then, so now I split my head open, which is where this scar is from.
Are you alone?
Well, no, there's Naracco's birthday is happening.
But are there people out with you on the street?
Well, now the whole birthday party's
okay.
coming out. Be like, what the fuck? Like, this dude just got hit by a car. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's the only time I made it into Big Brother magazine. Because
Really?
Big Brother was still like around at this point. And my head is split open and I have blood like all over my face. And I'm wearing a Joy Division t-shirt. And the whole caption just says, Leo Fitzpatrick likes Joy Division. Like it doesn't talk about being hit by a car or nothing, which is like the best Big Brother thing ever. Like just ignore the obvious and like make fun of like the small details. So then I go.
So then you don't do the cameo or
Well, no, I have to go to the hospital now.
Yeah.
So I go to LA hospital downtown. I'm not sure which one it is.
I forget.
But it's chaos in that fucking hospital. Like dudes who shot each other being like, I can't believe you shot me. Like, you shot me too, bro. Like friends who have shot each other. People who have rolled cars that don't know where they are. And I'm in there. And like my leg is like destroyed, my left leg. And I forget what happened, but they're like, we have to give you, like you're going into shock or something. I'm like, I'm not going into shock, fuck you, or whatever. And they're like, we have to give you morphine. I was like, oh, that's a bad idea. Like, I just know it's a bad idea. And they shoot me up with morphine. I throw up everywhere, whatever. I come to. And now I have a catheter. And they're like, you're going to lose your leg. We have to amputate it. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I came out here for the fucking weekend. Like, what the fuck?
Bro.
And so now I'm in.
You're going to lose your leg?
Yeah. So I'm in downtown LA County Hospital. Nobody I know in LA. Like, I just came there for the weekend. Like, nobody came to visit me. I don't think I even had a cell phone.
Not even yeah, that probably has something to do with it. Like, if you don't remember anybody's phone numbers.
Well, I think everybody was like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah.
We just saw him get in an ambulance. He wasn't dead yet. Like, but so, like, I'm just sitting down there, again, just, like, dealing with people dying all around me. Like, there's two doctors. One was like, you're going to lose your leg. We should just cut it off now. And another doctor's like, I think you'd be fine.
I mean, how conscious are you when they're saying
now,
that? Like, they're like, you're like aware, like, oh shit, they want to chop my fucking leg off?
Yeah, the morphine was the last drug I took.
Uh-huh.
I was like, all right, like, I don't like being fucked up. Now they're going to cut off my leg. Like, I want to be really sober for that decision. So I wouldn't take any painkillers. I wouldn't take anything. Like, just sober. Like, and my leg.
That's amazing.
Basically, the reason they wanted to cut off my leg is because it swolled out so much that was cutting off all the circulation. So it would be dead anyway. Like, there was no blood going through or anything. And it's called atrophy, like it atrophied. But this one doctor's like, I think he's cool. Like, I think he'd ride it out. I'm like, I like his optimism. Let's go that way. And so this is all also under a fake name.
Of course it is.
Because my
you're a
mom
fucking
worked in
skater.
hospitals growing up. My mom's like, if it's an emergency, they have to treat you. Just give them a fake name. Mm-hmm. So I have a particular skater that I use. It's not Lee Smith.
We got to know who he is.
Can't do it. Like, that dude's fucked.
We got to get it out of you.
So here I am, like, fucked up, like on drugs and sober. My leg's getting cut off. I keep being like, is so-and-so here? And I'm like, what? Where? And they're like, wait, that's you. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I'm here. Like,
Or they're like
let's just
testing
say,
you or something?
Let's say Steve Schneer. Like, oh, Steve Schneer here? And I'm like, where? What? I love that dude. 8th Street? And they'd be like, you're Steve Schneer. I'm like, yeah, I'm Steve Schneer. Yeah, it was fucked. Basically, so one doctor's like, oh, you're going to keep your leg. One doctor's like, we should cut it off before we waste any more time. Mm-hmm. It's so weird to be in that situation. Obviously, I like the guy who was like, you should keep your leg. And I get out of the hospital. Again, I have nowhere to go. Like, I don't know. I've never fucking almost lost my leg.
No cell phone?
No. So I went to my friend J.D. Ola's house in Hollywood. I'm pretty sure this destroyed our friendship because now I'm sleeping on his couch with like a leg that's fucking doesn't work.
What was wrong? Was it like broken?
So basically, I don't know what happened, but it got like stuck bent. Okay. Like it was stuck like this. Like, so when I would sleep, it would be like bent in the air, and I couldn't straighten it out. So wait, so this plays into, the timeline's off on this. Because then I had to figure out what cerebral palsy is, which plays into this. So basically, every day I'd have to stretch it out to the point where it could work again.
You're in
like
physical
even this,
therapy.
like it's dead right now. Like I can't.
You were doing
feel
that
my
on your own, or you were in physical therapy?
I had to go to physical therapy.
Okay.
So I went to a couple like not good physical therapists, but then somebody hooked me up with like a Lakers physical therapist. One person told me it would take me at least like 6 months to like get on crutches, like from a wheelchair.
Jesus.
And then the LA Lakers guy's like, I'll get you walking in 3 weeks. And he did.
Dude, how crazy is it that every doctor can have two totally different fucking takes on the same situation?
Yeah, and I figured like the Lakers, they invest a lot of money in these players. Like they want to get back on the court.
Yeah, of course.
So like
and the
I'll go
coaches
that
want
route.
them on the court too.
But like this, sitting like this, like my leg right now, like this is how much I can move my ankle.
Oh, wow.
So like that's like why I can't skateboard anymore.
Oh,
like my left leg is like kind of dead.
Damn.
Which is fine. I'm not like missing anything. I'm not like, I wasn't gonna like jump down El Toro. But
you could have.
But no, it's weird when you and you know, for me, like I was never that good to begin with, but it's pretty rough when you can skate at a certain level and then one day you can't.
But you can. Can you still cruise around?
Yeah. But you know, one day you can do 360 flips, and then one day you put on 30 pounds and you realize 360 flips aren't that easy. You're like, fuck, maybe I don't want to skateboard anymore because this is getting too real. Like this, the mirror that I'm looking into is too harsh, and it's just getting old. But it's sort of like you want to remember the good times and not like ride it out and be like, fuck, like I'm just fat and out of shape.
So in between kids and bully, there goes about 8 years go by.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know. It was like, I mean, luckily it was all a blur.
Yeah.
Like, luckily you're so young and stupid that you're not paying attention to the amount of time that's being lost. You know, you're just kind of like, like, if it wasn't for paying your taxes, you wouldn't even know how many years went by.
I'm surprised you even did that.
Well,
I mean, I wasn't doing it.
I was good at paying taxes because I didn't make shit. But no, I think you're just like kind of lost in the moment. And, you know, I think it's weird in hindsight to look back at like 30 being like, 30 was like a an age. Like that was a real thing.
Yeah.
And then you blow right past it.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, by 30, I'll probably like be married, have a house, blah, blah, blah. Then you just fly right by that. And you're like, okay, cool. Now 40, like 40 is when I'm really gonna get my shit together. Like I think after 28, you start figuring out shit about like life and things. And then slowly other things start kicking in where you're like, all right, maybe I should start thinking about stuff. But I think it's incredible that any of us survive our 20s.
My 20s were a fucking mess. I was a shit.
Everybody's
It was a shit
20s
show.
is a mess. Like that's the thing. Like, because I think everybody puts so much pressure on themselves in their 20s to be figuring it out because that's what you think your parents did. But you got to survive your 20s. That to me is more important because
So if you
that's
look
when
back,
you die. That's when you like push it to extremes. That's when you push it way too crazy. Like, there's a reason why 27, 28, we lose a lot of people.
That's true.
Like that's an age where people are like worried about 30. But I don't think 30 is even like, 30 is not
30
shit.
seems like young now.
34 or maybe 36 is when you should start worrying about it.
So what would you maybe have done differently in that time if you could go back?
I got no answers for that. I mean, I would have probably, it's weird, like I think there's a lot of, now I really appreciate like reading books and stuff. I think back then I wasn't like given the opportunity to read the type of stuff I think I would like to have gone to school if I had the right teachers. But when you grow up and people are telling you what to read as opposed to asking you what you'd be interested in reading, you're kind of like, fuck school, like they don't get it.
That makes a lot of
So
sense.
I think I would really like to have the opportunity to go to school. Like I think that's fucking awesome to get, like, especially with real life shit where you're like, well, for 4 hours a day, I just get to go like learn about shit I'm interested in.
Shit that I really want to
like
learn.
that's sick. And I'm like with people that are also interested in this, like that's pretty tight. So yeah, I think I could have just like read more, but I don't think like I have any like, I think maybe
Major regrets or
documenting things more. Like photograph, like I took tons of photographs. I think everybody had a T4 at some point. Everybody took photos. But as you get older, you realize like, I didn't take enough.
Yeah.
It's like, I got a lot of good photos.
Well, we're never going to be satisfied, right?
Whether or not they're like good photos composition-wise, like it could be a blurry photo of a friend that's not around. That photo is still sick.
That's true.
It's more about like what that photo represents in a time and a place. Like, I think documentation's really important. Like, I wish I wrote more journals. Like, because I don't remember shit, even though it sounds like I talk too much.
Seems like you remember quite a lot.
But like the idea of like going home every night and writing a journal or like taking photos, like documenting what this is, because for everybody it's so different. And nobody can do it wrong. Everybody has a completely amazing story to tell. Problem is when you don't document it.
Yeah.
It's like then other people get to translate it and you're like, oh.
That
Like if
makes sense.
Kids was my swan song, that would be the worst possible thing to happen for myself. If people were like, well, he made that one movie and then he just kind of disappeared. I'm like, but that movie was complete fucking insanity. That's not me. So it's like kind of trying to right a wrong, even though it's not a wrong. It's just trying to let people understand like kind of what I'm actually into.
Yeah. In talking about like the 20s and stuff and like how that's such a tumultuous time, unfortunately, like Justin's not here, Harold's not here. Like, it's funny that you mentioned that because some people didn't, they didn't make it out of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's an intense period of time, and if you have like inner demons and shit you're dealing with, you can really.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
it can get dark.
I think the first real friend I had who passed away, where like I understood what that meant, was Mike Cardona, It was Kim's brother.
Yeah.
And that was fucking heavy. I mean, I was a teenager. And the last friend I had was last year. And that was like a drug thing. It took a long time. I was addicted to drugs forever. And
With a lot of people in between, I would imagine.
yeah, and there's fucking countless people in between. And I think I remember telling my friend, like, can we just start dying of old age? Like, that would be the best thing ever. Like, oh, you heard about that dude died? Yeah, he was like 90 years old. Like, about time that motherfucker died. Instead of like this weird, like, living too hard, living too fast, drugs, some dumb shit. Like everything up until now has been like going too hard. Now I think it's like, all right, yeah, like, dude got cancer and died. Like, that sucks too, but it's not somebody living too fast. It's not like...
A lot of the skateboarders, I mean, I would say probably the majority of the skateboarders that aren't here anymore has all been about like that, living that kind of
Well, I think it's
lifestyle.
really tricky, and I have a lot of friends who are pro skaters they drink or are sober or do other things. But like, you know, it is tricky to figure out a way to abuse yourself post skateboarding.
Yeah.
Skateboarding is a release. And it could be a masochistic, fucked up kind of release because you got to hurt yourself to progress at it. So I think when you stop skateboarding, you have to figure out a different way to punish yourself. And some nights you land the trick, some nights you get the girl, you go home, next morning,
Yeah.
bong. Some nights you fucking slam and you fucking make a fool out of yourself, or you do some dumb shit and you hate yourself. And like, I think that drinking and drugs or whatever can really replace skateboarding.
Yeah.
In that mentality of, I'm going big tonight. I'm going
Yeah.
like, you know, like tonight is like my El Toro.
Where were...
Like, but I'm just like at the bar. Like, I'm fucking going switch tonight. Or I'm going tilt mode. Like, I think enjoy tilt mode. Tilt mode is a perfect analogy for like skateboarders and drinking. Like,
Yeah.
it is this, it's a perfect kind of, it just works out so well. Like, drinking can replace skateboarding so easy. Cocaine, skateboarding, those are like bedfellows. It seems like so perfect. Like, skateboarding gives me this rush I've never had before. Well, now I don't skateboard. I need a rush.
Yeah.
Cocaine, bitch. Like, you're like, all right.
That makes sense, yeah.
Like, it's like, you're looking for that same thing, and the results can be the same. Like, some nights you nail it, some nights you completely bail it and fucking destroy yourself.
Did you ever see like Harold and Justin, like, is that something that you saw coming, or like...
Justin, no. Justin was a mistake. Harold was invincible. I mean, I've seen Harold party, but no.
What do you mean Justin was a mistake?
I don't think Justin meant to kill himself. Which I think for a lot of people, you know, if they can wait it out a night, if they had somebody to talk to, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, of course.
When we made Kids, the last night of the shoot, there was one more day of filming. Something happened. I was living with Larry Clark at the time, and something happened with Justin where he got into a fight with his girlfriend, and the cops were called.
Okay.
In that scuffle, they broke Justin's arm.
The cops did.
Yeah. And Justin said, I'm going to go kill myself. Something crazy like that. And so they put him under psychiatric watch or something. And so in the last scene of Kids, where he's trying to undo Chloe's pants, he has a full broken arm. I think that he cut the cast off after they let him out of jail. Wow. But like, it was something to say to get a reaction. And luckily that night there was somebody to stop him. But I also think it was something to prevent the movie from ending. Like he really liked making that movie, but it was gonna end at some point. So there's a lot of weird shit that goes on. Like I don't know, but like it's like something he would talk about. But there was always somebody to talk him down from it. And then there was that one night in Las Vegas where there was nobody to talk him down from it, and he did it. And you're like, fuck. Like, yeah, and I think we all know people like that. There's like, I don't know, there's just weird nights that are mistakes. And like people go too far, and you're like, fuck, I just wish that dude called anybody, called the fucking guy at the front desk and be like, hey, just bring me some beer. I'm going to drink through this thing or whatever. I mean, drinking doesn't help anything. Drugs doesn't help anything.
If you're with a buddy, though, I mean, it can be.
Yeah, you'd be like, hey, man, my wife's being an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, you're an idiot. And you get through it. It's like when you're left alone in your head and, you know, I think it's tricky for sure to get older and, you know, I'm sure it seems like
I've definitely had some moments where I'm like, this shit seems fucking like impossible to get out of this situation. And then a year later, you're like, I'm in a great situation and I'm out of that.
Yeah.
But at that time, it feels
yeah,
like,
and I think, you know, obviously I'm not sober, but I think drinking and doing drugs can really put you in a bad place.
Yeah.
And if, you know, when the party ends, when there's no party going, like, and you're in a down place, like that's a bad place to be. So I think, yeah, people do dumb shit. I mean, I honestly can't count the amount of people I've known that have like passed away from multiple reasons. But like I said, I'll be very happy when we start dying of old age. Because this like live fast, die young.
Well, we're definitely
shit.
getting older. I'll
Like
tell
the
you
weird
that
thing is
much.
when you're like live fast, die young. Like we ain't that young anymore. Like what the fuck? Like you don't even get that pass. Like you're in your 40s. Like there's no reason for you to be doing coke at 4 a.m. Like get a job, fool. And I still know people that are like, what am I gonna get a job? Like I'm 40. I'm like, yeah, get a job, fool. Like what are you talking about?
I can imagine some of the people you're talking about.
It's like amazing, because people love being derelicts, you know, they love like, and you're like, yeah, but like, yeah, you're getting over on society, but like, you sleep on your mom's fucking floor. Like,
It's funny that you say that because I feel like there's some people that maybe are mad at me that I don't feel like I'm as much of a derelict as I used to be. And some people are not very happy about that.
Why, they want you to be more of a
yeah,
derelict?
they want me to be like more of a derelict like I used to be.
Yeah. Well,
It's like, oh, you think you're better than me?
oh yeah, like what, you grew up?
In my timeline of you, I have you next in The Wire.
Yeah, that's probably, I would have skipped that whole, I would skip everything from Kids to The Wire. I don't think
But that's the most fascinating part.
Well, that's the life I lived. I don't think it's that interesting for other people. But yeah, so it went for me, acting-wise, because when I did The Wire, people stopped talking about kids, which I thought was fucking fantastic.
The Wire was great.
I've never seen it. I saw Kids when it came out. I've never seen anything I've done.
I'm kind of like that too, but
Yeah.
you should watch The Wire.
Well, I'm not even that big
must
a
have
deal
watched it.
in The Wire. That's the best. There's like 40 characters.
Dude, you were
It's
in
not.
fucking like I don't know.
3 seasons.
3 seasons of
Yeah.
the show.
But it's not like I'm the star and I can't watch it because I'm the star. It's like, come on, that's a lame excuse. But one day I'll get mono. Like I've never seen The Sopranos. I've never seen like Breaking Bad. I've never seen a lot of good shows.
I binge watched The Wire and Sopranos last winter and I had never seen them before.
Yeah, so
So
I will
I love them
watch it
both.
at some point. But no, The Wire was like pretty out of left field. Like I don't even know. I remember going to the audition. I know a lot of people that died because of heroin. Like at that point, I knew a lot of people that were using heroin. Like heroin's pretty like around in my life. And so I just wanted that character to be kind of like real, like not like a junkie, just kind of like your brother or something.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, my brother's a fucking idiot. He does a lot of heroin. So I remember doing that audition, but I've always been terrible at auditions. Like I don't know how to act and like I just freak out. And so I felt like I played more of a speed freak, like crackhead, than a heroin addict. Because I know the difference, because I know both. And somehow they went for it. And then I was supposed to die within 3 episodes. But I think because me and Andre, who played Bubbles, got along so well, I survived for 3 seasons.
I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, and those were some pretty good checks.
I can imagine.
I mean, they weren't great checks. They were HBO checks, and HBO doesn't pay that much. But like, for a minute, I felt like a working actor.
I think a lot of people would consider that, yeah, probably a working actor.
Yeah. So it's like, it's amazing for how little I've done to be a part of 2 pretty good things. I've never had any money. Like, never. Like,
You must have made some good money along the way at some point.
no. It's amazing. It's amazing. I've never made fucking any money.
I think we probably have different definitions of what's money.
I mean, I've been able to pay my rent. But like, bank account, savings account, like, I've never had a credit card. I've never had like anything ever. Like, basically check cashing. So during The Wire, was it The Wire? No. So when my character died on The Wire, they couldn't find me because I didn't have a cell phone. And I was constantly without a cell phone back then because all I used was prepay, like wireless, like Sprint or whatever, like whatever.
They're like, we want to shoot this. We need you for this shoot at this point in time. They can't get in touch with you.
No, because I'm like, well, I don't have enough money to pay my fucking phone bill. So like, you guys got to hire me more and then I'll get a better phone and then I'll show up. Like, but like, it was like a running joke with like all the people on set. Like, how does this dude not have a phone? And I'm like, because I'm not a regular on this show. I'm just like whenever they decide to put me on the show, I'm on the show. But like, until I start getting those regular paychecks, then I can't afford a phone. It was sort of a fucking big joke. And so in that same spirit, like I was always like having crazy haircuts. I was just doing whatever the fuck. I never thought that show was gonna call me up. And then they would. And I'd be like, all right, cool, I gotta go to Baltimore, but now my hair is blue. Something like that. So if you notice at some point during the show, I start wearing hats a lot. I think, because I've always worn a lot of hats, like physical
You said that in
hats.
Kids, I got to start wearing more hats.
That's like one of the only improv lines because I really do hate my hair and I wear hats every day, which is why I have this stupid ass haircut.
Okay.
So, like, hats have been a constant theme. First time I got kicked out of school, suspended, was over a hat. Like, I love hats.
Okay.
So in The Wire, I start wearing a hat at some point because my hair keeps changing so much. I'm also the only junkie on television who got fatter over time because I started getting craft service. Like, I was like fucking I was so stoked on craft service. I was like the opposite of in character. I was like, fuck, craft service? Yeah, I'll take a steak burrito. Like, so excited about free food. But so, I forget how it happened, but one day I get called to Baltimore. Maybe I don't see the script or something, but at that point I'd only read what me and Bubbles did. I never read the rest of the script. And I'd only read it like the night before and be like, okay, cool, we have to shoot dope. Like, it's so easy to play a junkie. You shoot dope and you pass out. It's not rocket science. And so maybe I hadn't read the script or something, but I show up on set and I go, hey, where's my hat? Like, because I'm always wearing hats now. And they go, you don't need a hat if you're dead. I said, wait, what?
I mean, you can die with a hat on.
Well, no, they just killed off my character without telling me at all. There was no...
What do you mean? You didn't have a death scene?
No, I had a death scene. I just didn't know about it. Like, I thought I was just reporting to work. They're like, no, this is the day you die. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, but I like the way it transpired over a hat. Where I'm like, where's my hat? And they go, you don't need a hat if you're dead. I'm like... oh, okay, I guess I die this episode.
But
And
why
that's the thing with HBO. You never know when you're going to die. You could be the star of the show and you die, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm dead. Like, it was just one hell of a way to find out.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so it's all glamorous.
Well, then you did Sons of Anarchy after that, and like a lot of shit.
Yeah, but I didn't.
People were pretty psyched on that
See,
too.
I don't
no?
give a shit about any of that though. Like
No?
all that is like, I mean, for me, acting is like I enjoy doing it, but it's not like that dope.
No?
It's
You're like a reluctant movie star. It's like somebody hands you the keys to a Lamborghini and you're like,
no, but it's
I don't
not a
know if I wanna drive
Lamborghini. It's a
that.
jalopy. It's like a fucking. It's like the worst fucking car you've ever driven. It's like that same Honda CRX I bought when I was 16 with the money from kids. I'm still driving that fucking CRX. It's never upscaled. I never got to do anything better than that. It's like,
it probably could have. I mean, if you wanted it more.
I mean,
if you wanted it
lucky.
more.
I'm lucky that I get the opportunity to do some weird shit. But it's also kind of sick to just not be in movies.
I mean, I find
Like,
it
how sick would that be?
I find it
to
fascinating.
not be on
I
television.
find that fucking fascinating.
I think that would be the best. To just be like, nah, I fucking work at UPS. And on weekends I got fucked up. I'm like, that sounds awesome.
So from there, you get into the art world, right?
Yeah.
You start curating art shows. How does that all come about? Like, how does...
Another thing that doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense, which is why living in New York is the best place to do it. So basically being like a failed actor.
You're not a failed actor, though.
Says you.
You're just an actor that doesn't care that much.
All right. Basically, I have a lot of time on my hands.
Okay.
Because I'm not acting.
All right.
So I like art, and my friends like art, and we'd sit around and talk about art. And we're like, hey, let's start an art gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it. Like, you know, that's the nicest thing about New York. It's like, you got a shitty idea? Like,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we start this small art gallery. It's me and two of my friends, this artist Nate Lohman, artist named Hannah Leiden. And we're like so crazy that we're like, nothing's for sale. Nothing's for sale. The artists can do whatever they want. We're just going to give them a space. And so...
The artist can sell it, though.
Yeah, anybody but us can sell it.
Okay.
So the artists love it. Mm-hmm. The other galleries that the artists work with love it because we're not like trying to steal their money, blah, blah, blah. But we're losing like 25 grand a year or something because we're so like into this idea of like, fuck it, nothing's for sale. So we did that for like 4 years. And we had a great reputation because...
Which gallery was that?
This was called Home Alone Gallery. And so like we lost tons of money, but we had a great reputation. And then basically a bigger, kind of more corporate gallery asked me to work for them doing the same thing.
Is that the Marlborough?
That's Marlborough, yeah. So it's kind of like anything where it's like you pay your dues and then kind of sell out. Shit.
Does Home Alone still exist?
Home Alone doesn't exist. We had a Home Alone and Home Alone 2. Home Alone 3 might be the one with the girl in it. I don't know if we want to go that far. But no, it's just sort of, you know, like staying busy. I think in New York, the last thing you want to do is be the guy at the party with nothing to talk about. Everybody needs to be busy.
That's true.
Everybody needs to be working on something. Otherwise, you really feel like you're a fuck up
Yeah.
or like a sponge, or you're trying to, like,
Yeah.
as long as you're doing something, making a zine, something.
Yeah.
Like, you don't move to New York to sit around and not do anything.
true.
You move here to be like part of the conversation. So,
Was there a particular artist or piece or something that motivated you to get into it, or
no.
no?
No, it's just the idea of why, well, nobody told me I can't do it. Nobody told me I shouldn't do it. Or if they did, like, that would be more of a reason to do it. It's like, why would I not do it?
Yeah.
Even though I have no reason to do it, no education in it.
Yeah.
Well, nobody told me I couldn't. And it like works out. And that's the beauty of New York is like sometimes things are so wrong, they're right. And I feel like it's gotten so expensive, it's harder to do that. But it's still like, you know, as long as your motives are pure, other people see that. They're like,
for sure.
they'll sign up for it. They're like, oh, cool. Like,
Have you seen, you know, the producer Swizz Beatz?
yeah, I like Swiss.
He has an art thing called No Commission.
Yeah, no
And where
commission
he-
fair. I know
where
about it.
I guess he promotes artists and he takes no commission from them.
Yeah.
It sounds like he kind of stole your idea.
No. No. And I have no relationship with Swiss Beats. I don't give a fuck if he likes me or vice versa. But no, so basically what's tricky about the art world, right? So say you're an artist and you make a painting and you want to show that painting in my gallery. So I ask you, how much do you think that painting's worth? And you say, I think it's worth $1,000. So I say, okay, so it's $2,000 because I want $1,000 too.
Yeah, of course.
And so the idea of no commission is that the gallery doesn't get any commission. And Swizz is like, he's down. Like,
Yeah.
he's legit.
I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, I think what he does is like respectable. He's not sketchy. But yeah, the art world, the thing I tell people the most about the art world is that the only thing that makes sense about the art world is that nothing makes sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's kind of like life in general. Like,
It's like you take something and anything can be valuable.
yeah.
It's the same kind of thing with
But
art,
like
right?
that computer is kind of valuable, but if I fucking destroy it with a bat, it becomes more valuable.
That's true.
You're like,
right?
why? Because it's art now.
But also because you destroyed it, though.
Well, it depends on who.
It depends on who
But
destroys
like,
it.
what am I destroying? The information? What is the subcontext? Like, what is the meaning behind it? Like, did he just, did he destroy all the childhood pictures? It's like, it's so stupid. The whole thing. There's none of it should cost anything. Like, it's the amount of money that's traded in the art world is insane, and the reasoning behind it is like all this like fluffer bullshit. But it's like bluffing. It's all bluffing. It's all like it's worth what you want to pay for it. And I actually like art. Like, I still own the first painting I ever bought, which was from Chris Johansson when I was like 16, 17 from a Legend gallery. Like, I love that shit, but I could not convince anyone else why to buy art. Like, you buy it because you like it. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah, you like it.
Like,
Exactly.
investment reasons, no. You'll lose. Like,
I mean,
like, you have to sit on a piece of art for like 50 years for it to like go up in value.
so what do you do for the Marlborough Gallery? You just
Put in a lot of unsellable art. I just like put in weird shit. Somehow it works. Like, I've been doing it for 4 years. I don't know. It's like basically there's also the cultural currency. What does that bring? What does an audience bring? How much value is an audience? There's that. So that's what I kind of do. It's like figure out what's missing in the art world and try to provide that for young people, for other people, because an audience, you need an audience. Rich people will buy up some things, but you also need people to be talking about what's interesting, what's out there.
for sure. Who do you think's harder to deal with? Skaters, actors, or artists?
Oh man, they're all the worst. I mean, it's
Like which? I mean, you got three fucking.
you know what the
classes.
problem is? Actors, skateboarders. What was the other one?
Artists.
Artists. Let's throw in musicians.
Musicians can fall under the artist category.
Well, no, the problem is they all think they're artists. Everybody thinks they're a fucking artist. You're not an artist. You just ride a skateboard. Shut the fuck up. You're not Mark Gonzalez. Like,
Nigel Houston doesn't think he's an artist.
well, maybe that's a good thing. Like, the problem with artists is that they think they're artists. Like this idea of thinking you're something can really get in the way of getting things done.
Yeah.
If you think of yourself as a UPS guy, that's a pretty good place to start. Like if you're a worker, that's like a good place to start.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people I deal with. So artists are a lot like skateboarders where they're like, well, you know, like I need the right spot. You're like, well, but you're a skateboarder, you should be able to skateboard in a lot of different places. They're like, well, I'm not feeling the spot today. And you're like, well, I drove up from fucking San Diego. Maybe you could try. Artists are a lot like that, where they're like, I'm trying to write a poem. And you're like, well, what do you need for a poem? Do you need some paper? You need a pen? You need fucking this, that? You know, it's like I'm the filmer. As a curator, I'm the filmer. Being like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm trying to provide as much as possible, and you're sitting here being a diva. Like, that is brutal.
I imagine actors can be a little bit like that too, right?
Yeah, actors, dude. I've only seen one actor ever walk off set, and it was incredible. I was like, wow. Like, I don't think I'm the kind of actor who wanders off. I just like go for walks, and I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm not been like a diva, but I'm sure there's super divas.
Who was it that walked off set?
Vincent D'Onofrio on Law and Order. If you're a New York actor, you have to do Law and Order. Like that's like a rite of passage. I've done at least 2, maybe 3. Vincent D'Onofrio, he just didn't like the way things are going. He goes, fuck it, I'm going home. I'm like, all right, man. Like that was kind of sick.
So who, like, let's say, who's your favorite actor, skater, artist?
Shit, actor, and this is like so corny. There's a French actor named Denis Lavant that I think is amazing. He was in this movie, Mr. Lonely, that Harmony did, but he's also in like Leos Carax's movies. But American actors, like Crispin Glover is kind of sick. I like Crispin Glover. Shit, I don't know, there's a lot of them.
All right, so we got
All right, so that's the actor. What's the next one?
skater.
Skater? Fuck, dude. I love skating so much.
You can do 3 then.
So for me, like skater, like George Carr, A1 Meets. That
was the big burly dude from back in the days, right?
That's always been my dude. Like I love that. Him, Jed Walters.
Okay.
Like the weird misfits. Like,
Yeah.
I love those dudes. For a young dude, I like Cater.
Cater skater?
Yeah.
He's pretty gnarly.
I mean, Andrew has such an incredible gift of finding these kids that like just kind of look okay. But then over time they blossom into these amazing skateboarders. Like
Yeah.
T-Funk, like when he first came out, you're like, oh cool, like a little kid that skates. And now he's like incredible.
He's incredible, yeah.
You're just, how does Andrew, I mean, obviously he was a child prodigy, but yeah, I like Evan Smith.
Yeah, he's gnarly too.
He's just like a fruitcake, like weirdo. Like
So then
I like the weirdos, you know? Like I was just thinking about Nanda Zip the other day, like in Steve
Nanda
Olsen.
Zip.
Yeah. Like Steve Olsen's Shorty's days or Foundation days. Like Lee, is it?
Not Smith.
No, Lee. I was gonna say Lee Ledare, but Lee Peterson. Like
Lee
remember
Peterson,
how bad
101,
Lee Peterson
yeah.
was? He was terrible. Which I have a whole story about why he quit skating. Because you know now he's
Really?
an artist.
I didn't know that.
Lee Peterson is Lee Ledare.
He was on 101.
Yeah, but remember, like he would just do a trick and stop, like that whole
He
period
was
of like
kind of
20
slow.
shot sequence.
He was a little
of,
slow,
like,
yeah.
Like a switch stance, like back heel, nose slide, and stop.
But the slides where you're like
yeah,
pushing it.
I love that shit. So yeah, so
And then what about artists? What kind of artists?
shit, I don't know. I like weirdos again, just like people who just like fucking pour concrete in the ground and be like, that's art. I'm like, all right, cool. So it's like, it's kind of, there's no one that's like exciting enough for people to know about. I don't know. There's a guy named Michael Asher who instead of putting art in galleries, just like rips off the walls and just like throws out the gallery. That's an interesting.
So it's like a destroyed space?
Yeah. That's an interesting way to approach life. Like, I like that shit. Like, oh, you want me to do an art show? How about I just destroy your space and call that? It's like G.G. Allen or something. Like, you know, it's all about finding the unique people in these fields.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's sort of like being a fan of freestyle skateboarding when that's like not cool. Where you're like, dude, I like that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I like freestyle because it's so uncool. I don't know.
What about yourself? You consider yourself to be like an artist or like a creative type of person?
No. I think trying is interesting. Trying different things. Whether or not that translate into actually being interesting, I don't know. Like sometimes the failure is more interesting than succeeding. Because you gotta try a bunch of different shit until you figure out what it is you're good at. And that doesn't end when you're 20, 30, or 40. We are constantly trying new shit all the time. And that's the interesting thing. You know, trying to have kids, trying to be an adult. Like that's all crazy too. That's as crazy as like trying ecstasy for the first time. Try having a baby. Like that shit ain't
How's that going? How's being a father?
Being a father is cool because like I'm on the same level. Like I'm like, you want to get weird? You want to talk weird shit? Like I love that. It's like, I mean, I go to his school and I don't fit in. And it's like now I'm not the student, I'm the parent, but I don't fit in with other parents. So it's kind of like we're still there. I'm still back in school. Like I wear like Slayer shirts to school. They're like, I'm like, what? Like, fuck you. Like, I don't want to be here anyway. They're like, wait, but you're the dad. I'm like, fuck you, principal. Like, what the? Like, it's like
all started over again.
PTSD or something. Like, you can't fucking rope me in. Like, fuck you. Like, it's like weird. Like, the other day I had to do a parent-teacher conference, and I remember the first time I was kicked out of school. I stole a television out of a classroom. I stole a television and VCR out of a classroom, and they kicked me out of school. And my mom had to come in for a conference. And the other day I had to go, my kid's 2 years old, so I had to go to like a parent-teacher conference from him. And they're like, yeah, you know, he's playing really well with people, and like, you know, he's like a little kid. I was like, I have to stop this right now. I was like, I feel really weird being like, I didn't say like talked down to by an authority, but that's kind of how I felt. I was like, why are you telling me about my kid? Like, how about I tell you about, like, you know, it's like that weird shit. Like,
it's like you're telling me what my kid is
like,
doing.
I already know this shit. Why the fuck you bring me to school? It's like some, like, you know, like I love that movie Baby Boy. Like, it's like that shit. Like, fucking, where you're like, I don't need your fucking, I don't need this shit. I love my kid. I know what he's up to. It's weird to be on the other fence. But it's also weird to be somebody of a, it's weird to be the father of a kid who will be raised in New York City, who will talk shit to somebody who's raised in New Jersey.
Whoa.
Full circle. Fucked up. Like that, to me, it's like when I'm like, well, where the fuck's he gonna go? He already lives here. He doesn't have to go to New York. Where is he gonna go? New Jersey? Is that where he's gonna go to find himself? It's a very catch-22 kind of thing, where you're like, fuck, my kid is a New Yorker. I'm not too stoked about it. But
What about skating? Is he gonna? Does he have a board? Does he push around?
he has a board.
I mean, he's only 2, but like.
No, he has a board. I mean, I got him a little zip zinger. I have a board. Like now with Instagram and the level that skateboarding's gotten to, it just doesn't look that fun. Like,
skateboarding.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine myself wanting to skateboard today if I knew the competition, where I'd be like, well, yeah, that's just never gonna happen. So
In that sense, yeah, there's nothing left to discover. Like it's all
Or
out there.
like,
It's all
I just
out there for you to
don't want
see.
to break my leg if I don't land something. The idea that somebody is just hucking themselves down 20 stairs for Instagram, and maybe like just to be on like Hall of Meat. Like even a slam is as good as a land at this point. Like
If you go viral, yeah.
yeah, and you're like, this is for fucking Instagram. This isn't for, it's not Santa Monica triple set. It's not fucking the ender of the video. This is like your buddy. You're filming it, and all you have to do with your iPhone is keep it going. It's crazy.
And then you got to do it again the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. Because you can't just do it once. I mean, you got to do it. It's Instagram. You got to do it over and over and over.
Well, like I don't have a big problem with Jackass, but I think Jackass kind of created this sort of Instagram environment of like shock value. Like all you need is 10 seconds of like sheer pain. We got a clip. And they proved it in the biggest way by making a movie. Like 2 hours of 10-second clips of people just being like, fuck. And you're like, yes. Like, yeah. So now Instagram is
that
just
movie was
that.
kind of hard to watch.
I mean, it's great. It's like totally fine, but it's just weird where you're like, well, shit, how do I top that? And I think that's, with baseball, you don't see people hitting triple home runs every day on Instagram.
That's
With
true.
skating, you see people from absolutely coming out of nowhere doing shit that pros can't even do.
That's true.
And you're like,
yeah.
what the fuck? Like, this dude is like, lives in Minnesota. I've never heard of him. And he's just jumping down a giant double set.
That's true.
And no disrespect.
And like doing something, that's interesting that you put it that way, because he's doing something that is as good or better than what the pros are doing, and he's just some no-name guy in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, if I was a skateboard pro, I'd be fucking nervous. Because you're only getting older, and they're only getting younger.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, no matter who you are, you're getting older.
Yeah.
So unless you figure out your little niche, there's going to be a 14-year-old that can do frontside flips. There's going to be a 14-year-old that can do this and that and this and that. And you're just going to get worse at it. So you're like,
I mean, there's a lot of great skaters, but they don't all have that thing, though. And I don't know what that thing is, but that thing is like, what makes you want to watch them.
Yeah, like. But as far as technical tricks are concerned,
yeah,
people have figured that out.
Oh.
And they've figured out gaps, and they've figured out handrails. And you're like, well, being technical isn't enough. I have to figure out different
They
approach.
mix technical with gnarly now. Like,
Yeah.
they can, the two things combined, it's like on another level.
Yeah,
I mean,
about
think about it
skateboarding.
in hip hop terms. I mean, you got like a guy who's like super technical, like a Cannabis. That doesn't mean you like him. You like a Snoop Dogg. He's got the fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
The other day, I went to see Tommy Wright III just out here somewhere, and so he was talking to me about Tekashi 6ix9ine. They're like, hip hop is like I don't think I've listened to hip hop since the 90s. That's like a good example. Like, it's sort of like skateboarding, where I stopped listening to hip hop in the 90s. I stopped caring about skateboarding in the 90s.
Speaking of music, you also DJ.
Yeah.
So acting, skating, art, DJing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still fucking broke. I do it all. Whatever you need, I'm available. No, the DJing is just for me. And again, it comes back to skating, like growing up and like liking different kinds of music. And at some point in New York, I realized like my friend was DJing. I was like, wait, not only do you get paid to DJ here, but you get to drink for free? Like, and you get to listen to your music? Like, that's the best gig ever. And so I started DJing for just drinks, not for any pay. But then I did it for like 15 years or something.
Oh, okay. Was it just like at bars, little
Yeah,
spots?
bars.
Here and there?
Everybody in New York's a DJ. But then I couldn't keep up with the lifestyle. Like, staying out till 4 a.m. was just way too late for me. And so now I DJ a radio station called The Lot something.
Lot Radio.
Lot Radio. And it's from 12 to 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. And it's just kind of sick to like not be at a bar.
Yeah.
You know, it's like kind of hard to deal with drunk people. They're not always so fun.
That's true.
And like I bring records, like I've always brought records and collect records, so that's fine. But I've seen DJs with laptops who drunk people will just pour their beer on the laptop and be like, fuck you. And you're like, whoa, that's that dude's computer.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked
And
up.
just because he wasn't playing hip hop, like they just pour their whole beer on it. Like drunk people are assholes.
Fuck.
So so I don't miss like bar life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
Besides that, what else are you doing? You're on this new Jonah Hill show?
Yeah, I did that. A little cameo.
I thought that was that a one-time thing or that was a recurring thing?
I don't know. Nobody tells me shit. I don't know what's happening with that thing. I mean, I just did it.
What is it? The show called Maniac?
The show's called Maniac, and like Jonah made it between filming mid-90s and editing it, and then Emma Stone is the other actress on it, and they're both pretty big time. So I don't know if they could get them back. And then I think the director Cary Fujikawa just got asked to do James Bond. So, I mean, for me, when I do shit like that, I just like show up.
Yeah.
And like the nice thing is I actually got a record on that one. Like I have the record for being, I guess, shot the most times on film in a single take.
What do you
which is
mean?
like
Of any like
of
actor?
all time. They made
What do you mean? How many times were you
point
shot?
of shooting me more than any other person.
How many times were you shot?
It was like 98 times or something. Like the previous person was like 95, and so they wanted to like beat it by a few shots. It was like 98. It's just short of 100.
Now you're out here breaking records and shit.
Yeah, you know. But it's funny because that shit's all like a keyboard. Like what all that stuff is hooked up to looks like a keyboard. And so you're wearing like a 50-pound suit of just like electronics.
Yeah.
Because they just pop off at different points. And so we're shooting in the middle of Long Island. And of course, that's the last shot of the day. So that shot where I get shot 100 times was at like 5:30 in the morning or something, after I'd been out there for at least 18 hours. And I was supposed to dance mid being shot. And it really fell flat. But I'm like, man, you fucking try being shot 100 times and throwing a dance move after sitting on set for 18 hours. It's not that easy. And, you know, this isn't like working in a coal mine. But, you know, acting is pretty stupid at times.
Seems like you and Jonah Hill are pretty tight, no?
No, I mean, we like each other.
Yeah.
Like, I like him. I think he's genuine. I think he knows that I'm genuine because I don't ever talk to him about being Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, hey, did you see like the GX video? Like,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in him being a skateboarder.
Yeah.
I actually want to know those stories. Like, because I think he'd rather talk about that. And I think he has something to offer, which is, like I said, I went to see mid-90s and I liked it.
You know what I would have thought would have been kind of funny is if your character from Kids would have made an appearance in mid-90s as like an older, kind of like derreled out dude, still trying to like cling on to fucking, even if he would have survived having AIDS, obviously.
Yeah.
If that, I don't know, but like that would have been kind of interesting, like, you know, maybe make a quick, like, you're all older now, you're Telly, you're fucking some lurker, like fucking in the cuts. That would have been kind of interesting.
I guess like Jonah made reference to Kids a few times in the film, which I know he's a fan of Kids. But there's one really unnecessary scene in the movie where a guy walks out of the mom's bedroom, and that's Harmony Korine, who wrote Kids.
Oh, okay.
And it's totally unnecessary. It doesn't belong in the film.
Yeah.
But if you know the reference, you're like, oh, that's the tip of the hat. There's no reason he should be in the film other than I respect this guy. But yeah, I would have I mean, I'm down with Mesa. He never called me. Like, I could have played one of those police
Maze,
guys.
where you at?
Like, I could have been at the courthouse scene. I heard Muska was one of the homeless dudes. I didn't see him.
Yeah, you could have been one of those dudes.
For sure. Like, if you see me, this is my cleaned up look. I've been in character for years. I'm waiting. Call me up to the big leagues. But no, it's like, yeah, I don't know. The weird thing I think is that I support skateboarders. Jonah, I believe, is like a legit skateboarder. Whether or not he was a good skateboarder, I think he's a legit skateboarder. Yeah. So, people like that I could talk to all day. And I think that goes back to the times of like skating down the street, seeing somebody in Vision Streetwear, something like, you're a skateboarder? I'm a skateboarder. Yeah. Just that kind of, it's us against the world bullshit. You like this band? I like this band. It's weird that skateboarding has gotten so big at this point where you see people wearing shoes or like shirts. And you're like, oh, I don't know. That dude just looks like cool. Yeah. But if somebody's a legit skateboarder, I could talk their ear off. Like you. Like we've been doing. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Would you for me, this is kind of like therapy. But it only makes me think how much shit we haven't talked about. Like, fuck, there's so much.
There's a lot, huh?
That, the acting shit, I do not care about. The skateboarding shit, I care about so much. We haven't talked about like Ron Allen, Henry Gutierrez, Airborne Helmet Skateboard Tour. And we haven't talked about anything. We just cracked the surface. There's so much there. My obsession with Matt Hensley.
I love Matt Hensley too.
Matt Hensley's the best. There's so much there, and it's all from that 9-year-old point of view, where it's the best. It's the most purest, best thing ever. As you get older, the more you're it's easier to judge and quicker to be jaded about things. But when you're 9 years old and you think something's the best, it is the best. And the chances are it stays the best. Because that was before your heart got crushed, you became cynical. Life sucks.
That leads me to my next question. Was with that being said, have you ever thought about doing your own project, film project, or?
No, I have no interest in ever making a film because
I think you should.
It's just there's too many people involved. If anything, I would write a book. I'm really writing. That's kind of my thing. I've always liked writing, and I wouldn't write a book about myself. I don't think there's much interest there. I just think writing is a really difficult thing that interests me. Making a film is fucked up. It's so hard. And there's lots of people that are way better at me that do it that fuck yeah, let them do it.
Yeah.
But no,
Well, man.
You know how it is. You've been doing this every week. It's it's not easy to get together.
Sure.
Of course, our girlfriends think we're having a great time. Go make your movie. And you're like, babe, I swear to God, sucks. So it's there's a catch-22. It's no matter if it's skateboarding or shooting photographs or making a movie, there's still work involved. It's all work at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
So, obviously, if you love what you're doing, it makes it a little less work-like, but it's still work.
Yeah.
So, there are days where you hate being a pro skateboarder.
For sure.
There are days you look back and you're like, that was the best shit ever. So you're kind of fuck. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to keep going. And, for right now, the art shit is kind of where my head's at. But it's pretty much just about avoiding a real day job until I get a real day job, which that will be the best day ever.
I was gonna say that because I feel success is doing what you want to do when you want, being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, right? and not having somebody fucking tell you when to wake up, when to fucking go to lunch, when to fucking be here at this time. And I feel like you're doing that, man. And you're doing that through many, through acting, through art, through music, and through things that are amazing. And I feel like, maybe you had a rocky start to get to this point, but
it's still rocky, man.
But you're still doing, but you did it, man. And I feel like you're very successurul, man.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself a little more credit.
No, I'm not like down on myself.
No, not that you're down on yourself, but I feel like you did your thing, man. Like, and you're super successful.
And we're all like still growing. You know, that's my thing. It's like nobody that I know, luckily, like relaxes. Everybody's worried about keeping up with their friends, with their peers, and remaining kind of important in our friends' eyes. Like, what's he been up to? Oh, he's been doing this. And like, that's what keeps us all in check. It's just like, it's not even about the outside world. It's about whether or not our friends respect us. And we have to keep contributing to that conversation. I think that's a really nice thing, is to respect our friends enough to want to have them be proud of us as much as we're proud of them. We're like, dude, if I'm gonna hang out with this dude, I better bring something to the table, because otherwise I'm a leech, and that nobody likes a leech. So yeah, it's just keeping it going, keeping it interesting, and yeah, I mean.
What's next? What do you think? Where do you see yourself going now?
I mean, I gotta wake up at like 6, make my kid breakfast, and do some dishes, and be a dad. This is my night out, everybody. Thank you. No, I don't know. Just keep doing the same shit. There's really, I don't.
Just take it as it comes.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to be content. Everybody wants to be doing more. We also have to be realistic. So it's just sort of like being like, yeah, I'll take it as it comes. But I'll also be looking for that other thing. It's like playing it cool, but being hungry at the same time. Like, no, I'm cool, but I'll fucking be hungry. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
man.
I don't know if we got anything.
I think we got it.
I mean,
I think we got it. I think we're good, man.
It's weird. I'm. You know how weird it is to be like me? It's fucked up.
I heard you like Pawn Stars.
Dude, I love some Chumley. Dude, the only TV I watch, which I watch like maybe one show every 2 weeks or something, because like during doing the dishes or something. Pawn Stars used to be it. Black Ink Crew.
Oh, Black Ink.
Black Ink is the shit. They're always getting into something.
Caesar.
Like, it's perfect television. Like, you just put that shit on, let it ride.
I got a funny story about Chumley, because he was at, Carol had him and Nick Diamond, Nick Terchet are good friends, Chumley.
Yeah.
And so somehow Chumley ended up at fucking Carol's bachelor party.
Sure.
In fucking Vegas. So we're all drunk, and there's like fucking all these like girls around, and I see this dude Chumley in the corner, and I'm wasted, and I'm like, maybe the story's not that good, but I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you, the pimp or something?
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea who he was, and then it turns out he's fucking the dude from Pawn Stars.
And he's probably worth way more than everybody in that. Like, the other thing I love about a show like Pawn Stars is they're like, we're at a pawn store in the middle of Las Vegas, and like nothing is like blah blah blah. And then you read like Chumley has a massive like Lamborghini collection and methadone or meth problem. You're like, what the fuck? Like, these dudes are making real money, but then I think the problem is they stopped showing up at the store because they were like making so much money. They were like just doing like meth all day and shit. And then they were like, hey, but we still got to make this TV show. They're like, fuck that store. Like, I'm fucking rich. Like, fuck yeah. Like, turn like broke people into overnight celebrities. Chumley's a DJ in Las Vegas.
Yeah, he's a DJ.
That dude's like
he's like
probably
a streetwear guy. He fucking hangs out with skaters.
He's not hanging out at a pawn store. He doesn't give a shit about those people. Like, fuck those dudes. Fuck that old man. Like, he's doing Chumley, DJ Chumley shit. I don't know. I love all that shit. Like, that's the thing. I've never liked movies. I mean, I like some movies, but I just like the worst shit.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in whatever's next.
I'll make sure to be in the worst shit possible next. Nah, I don't know what. The weird thing is when you're like, well, shit. Like I heard, like Walking Dead's a pretty big show. I kind of look like a zombie. Why can't I get on that shit? You'd think it'd be easier than it is. It's not that easy, boys and girls.
Dude, thanks for coming through, man.
Thank you for having me.
That was fucking a lot of fun. You had me crying at one point. I'm fucking cracking up, dying over here.
Yeah, I wish
Amazing
we had more
stories.
time.
I know.
I think
there's only so much time. But
and I guarantee we met in LA. I know we met in LA. I can't tell you where or when. Maybe like Jumbo's, could be Cinespace. There's a lot of.
Well, you were in your 20s. I was in my 20s. We were both in a messy period, so a lot of blurry nights.
I know it's pretty fun.
Thanks again, bro.
All right, thank you, everybody. See you later.
Peace.